In our kingdom, there are three types of shifters. Silver wolves serve, black wolves rule, and golden wolves are burned alive. They say the last golden wolf nearly destroyed the world. So when I shifted at age 6 and saw the gold rippling through my fur, I made a choice. I would never shift again. For 12 years, I succeeded. I became a shadow, a whisper, the girl nobody notices. Until the Alpha King announced the Trial of Fire, a ritual where every unmated shifter must shift before the entire kingdom to prove their worth. Refuse, and you're exiled. Attend, and I'm exposed. Either way, I lose everything. But here's what the Alpha King doesn't know. I'm not just a golden wolf. I'm the golden wolf, the one from the prophecy. And when he sees what I really am, he'll have two choices: make me his queen, or watch his kingdom burn. Chapter 1. The Announcement. The stone courtyard of the royal palace could hold 3,000 people when packed shoulder to shoulder. Today, it held closer to 5. I stood near the back, pressed against the cold wall, my gray cloak pulled tight. Invisible. That's what I'd trained myself to be for 12 years. Gray clothes, quiet steps, eyes down. The girl who didn't matter. Silence! The royal herald's voice boomed across the crowd. His Majesty, Alpha King Theron Reed, commands your attention. My stomach clenched. I'd avoided being this close to the king for years. Avoided ceremonies, assemblies, anything that might draw his eyes my way. But attendance today was mandatory. Refusal meant immediate exile. The king stepped onto the raised platform. Even from this distance, I could see why people called him the Shadow King. Dark hair, darker eyes, a presence that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. He was young, only 25, but he'd ruled with an iron fist since his father's death 3 years ago. "My people," he began, his voice carrying effortlessly across the silent crowd. "For generations, our strength has been measured by the power of our shifts, the bond between human and wolf. But in recent years, I have noticed a disturbing trend." He paused, letting the words settle. "Too many of our youth refuse to shift. They claim injury, illness, or weakness. They hide behind excuses rather than embrace their birthright." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was about me, about people like me, the ones who couldn't show what they were. "Therefore," the king continued, "I am instituting the Trial of Fire. 3 weeks from today, every unmated shifter between the ages of 16 and 30 will present themselves before the kingdom. You will step into the sacred flames. You will shift. You will prove your worth." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Beside me, a girl I vaguely recognized from the market district turned pale. "Those who refuse will be exiled beyond our borders, never to return. Those whose families harbor refusers will face severe penalties." His eyes swept across the assembly, cold and unyielding. "There will be no exceptions." My vision tunneled. 3 weeks. 3 weeks until I had to either reveal what I was or abandon my family to punishment. The crowd erupted in whispers. I turned to leave, to disappear into the chaos, when his voice cut through again. "Additionally, I am offering a reward. Any information leading to the discovery of a golden wolf, should one still exist, will be rewarded with land, title, and gold beyond measure." I froze. "Golden wolves are not myth," he said, and something in his voice had changed. Something hungry. "They are history, and history has a way of repeating itself. If you see gold, if you suspect gold, report it immediately to the royal guard. That is all." The crowd began to disperse, voices rising in panic and speculation. I pressed myself flatter against the wall, waiting for the mass of bodies to thin before I dared move. Terrifying, isn't he? I jumped. A young man had materialized beside me, lean, dark-haired, with eyes that held too much amusement for the current situation. "Excuse me?" I managed. "The king. Terrifying. All that doom and gloom about trials and golden wolves." He grinned. "I'm Wes Vincent, by the way. You looked like you could use a friendly face." "I'm fine. I said curtly, moving to step past him. He matched my pace. You don't look fine. You look like someone just announced your execution date. Leave me alone. Can't. It's genetically impossible for me to ignore a damsel in distress. He tilted his head, studying me with unnerving focus. You're the one who never shifts, aren't you? The girl they call broken. My blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. His grin widened. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. I'm not interested in the king's bounty. I'm interested in much more lucrative opportunities. Before I could respond, a hand clamped down on his shoulder. Wes, still bothering young women, I see? The voice was deep, cultured, and far too close. I looked up, and up, into the face of the Alpha King himself. Every instinct screamed at me to run. Instead, I dropped into the lowest curtsy I could manage, eyes fixed on the ground. Your Majesty, Wes said, not sounding remotely intimidated. I was just welcoming our fellow citizens to your delightful new trial. Very inspirational speech, by the way. Really captured that shift or die energy. Leave, the king said flatly. Wes shrugged and melted into the crowd. I remained frozen in my curtsy, praying the king would simply walk past. My suppression rune, the scar on my left wrist that caged my shift, burned like a brand. Stand up. I obeyed, keeping my eyes down. Look at me. Slowly, I raised my gaze. His eyes were darker up close, almost black, with an intensity that made my breath catch. For a moment, we simply stared at each other. What's your name? He asked. Alana, Your Majesty. The lie came easily. I'd been using it for years. My real name, Aurelia, was too recognizable, too connected to the old stories about golden wolves. Alana. He tested the word, his expression unreadable. You live in the Palace District? Yes, Your Majesty. And you'll be attending the trial? My throat closed. Yes, Your Majesty. Something flickered across his face, curiosity maybe, or suspicion. You seem afraid. Everyone is afraid, Your Majesty. Not everyone. Some people hide their fear better than others. He stepped closer, and I caught his scent, cedar and smoke and something darker underneath. Some people have been hiding for a very long time. The suppression rune flared hot. I bit down on the inside of my cheek to keep from gasping. I look forward to seeing your shift, he said quietly. 3 weeks, Alana. Don't disappoint me. Then he was gone, moving through the crowd with his royal guard falling into formation around him. I sagged against the wall, my legs shaking. He'd looked right at me, spoken to me. For 12 years, I'd been invisible, and now the one person I needed to avoid most in the world had noticed me. I had 3 weeks to figure out how to survive, 3 weeks to decide whether to run or fight, 3 weeks until the trial of fire burned away everything I'd built. Chapter 2. The First Shift. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't face my family, the people who'd taken me in 12 years ago, knowing what I was, knowing the danger I brought to their doorstep. Instead, I went to the one place I'd always gone when the walls closed in, the Royal Archives. Most people didn't know the archives existed. They were buried 3 levels beneath the palace library, accessible only through a service corridor that the cleaning staff used. I'd discovered them by accident when I was 10, and they'd become my sanctuary ever since. The current archivist, an elderly man named Solomon Hess, had died 2 months ago. No replacement had been appointed yet, which meant I had the entire collection to myself. I lit a candle and made my way to the restricted section, the one with the lock I'd learned to pick years ago. The shelves here held the kingdom's darkest secrets, execution records, forbidden histories, and everything the royal family wanted buried, including the truth about golden wolves. I pulled down the worn leather journal I'd read 100 times before. The handwriting inside was elegant but shaky, as if the writer's hands had trembled. Personal account of Lord Martin Stevenson, Royal Historian, year 247 of the New Dawn. I flipped to the passage I'd memorized. The golden wolf, Aurelia of House Solana did not go mad with power as the official histories claim. I was there. I witnessed the truth. She discovered that the royal family had been cursed by the ancient covens, a punishment for their genocide against the magical bloodlines. Each third generation, an heir would be born without a soul, a vessel for darkness that would eventually consume the kingdom. Aurelia tried to break the curse. She believed her golden fire could burn it away, but the flames consumed her instead, and the royal family declared her a monster to hide their own sins. They hunted every golden wolf after, claiming public safety. In truth, they feared exposure. I write this knowing I will be executed if discovered, but someone must know the truth. The curse remains, and without a golden wolf to break it, we are all doomed. The journal ended there. Lord Martin had been found dead in his chambers 3 days after writing those words. Official cause? Natural heart failure. Unofficial truth: his neck had been broken. I closed the journal and pulled down another text, this one even older. The Prophecy of Fire and Shadow, written in the ancient tongue. I'd taught myself to read it over years of study. When darkness claims the throne, only gold can burn it clean, or burn it all. The Golden One and the Shadow King are bound, fated, doomed, 2 sides of a curse that will either save the kingdom or end it. But beware, the bond is not love, it is necessity, and necessity has teeth. I traced the words with my finger, my mind racing. Theron Reed was 25. His grandfather had been the 3rd generation after the curse was placed, which made Theron the 3rd generation after his grandfather, the cursed heir. My hands started shaking. The king wasn't hunting golden wolves because he feared them. He was hunting them because he needed one, needed me, to break a curse, or to burn with him. A sound echoed from the corridor above, footsteps, multiple sets, moving with purpose. I froze, listening. "Heard she comes here," a voice said. Male, young, unfamiliar. "The girl who never shifts. Someone saw her enter the archives entrance." "Then we search every level," another voice replied. "Lord Britt wants her found. Says she might be valuable." I extinguished my candle and pressed myself into the shadows between the shelves. The footsteps grew louder, descending the stairs. Britt McLaughlin, one of the king's advisors, a man known for his ambition and his connections to the old noble families. What did he want with me? The door to the archives burst open. Torchlight spilled across the floor. "Split up," the first voice commanded. "She has to be here somewhere." I needed to move, now, but there was only one exit and they were blocking it. My suppression rune burned. The thing inside me, the shift I'd caged for 12 years, stirred like a beast waking from sleep. Not here, not now. If they see gold, I'm dead. I crept along the back wall, using the shelves as cover, making my way toward the forgotten storage room at the archive's far end. Few people knew it existed, and fewer still knew it connected to the old catacombs beneath the palace. "There!" A guard spotted me. "Stop!" I ran. Footsteps thundered behind me. I burst through the storage room door and slammed it shut, throwing the bolt. It wouldn't hold long, but I didn't need long. The catacomb entrance was hidden behind a false panel. I found it by touch in the darkness, wrenched it open, and plunged into the tunnel beyond. The passage was pitch black and smelled of damp earth and old death. I ran blind, one hand on the wall, counting steps from memory. 50 paces, turn right. 30 more, stairs down. Keep going. Behind me, wood splintered. They'd broken through the door. The tunnel split ahead. I went left, then right, then left again, losing myself in the maze of passages I'd explored as a lonely child. Eventually, the footsteps faded. I slowed, gasping for breath, and emerged into a wider chamber. Moonlight filtered through a grate far above, casting silver bars across the floor. I'd been here before. Years ago, the night everything changed. Memory fragment. 12 years ago. I was 6 years old, playing in the garden with my older sister Molly. She was teaching me to shift, or trying to. I'd felt the pull before, the strange itch beneath my skin that meant my wolf was ready to emerge. "Just let it happen," Molly said, demonstrating. Her shift was effortless. One moment a girl, the next a beautiful silver wolf with gray eyes. "Don't fight it. Your wolf wants to meet you." I closed my eyes and let go of the control I'd been holding. The shift took me like a wave. My bones cracked and reformed. My skin rippled. The world tilted and sharpened, colors bleeding into new spectrums I'd never seen before. When it was done, I opened my eyes and saw my reflection in the garden fountain. Gold. Burning, molten gold. My fur shimmered like captured sunlight. My eyes glowed like twin flames. "Molly?" I tried to say, but it came out as a whimper. My sister had stumbled backward, her face gone white. "No," she whispered. "No, you can't be—" The back door slammed open. Our mother stood framed in the doorway, and the love I'd always seen in her eyes curdled into horror. "Get away from her!" she screamed at Molly. "Get inside, now!" Our father appeared behind her, already holding a fire iron from the hearth. "I'm sorry," he said, and I heard the truth in his voice. He was sorry. Sorry, but he would do it anyway. "You understand why this has to happen. You're a danger to everyone." I didn't understand. I was 6. I'd just shifted for the first time, and my parents were looking at me like I was a monster. My father advanced. The iron glowed red-hot in his hands. I ran. I ran through the garden, through the streets, into the forest beyond the city walls. Behind me, I heard shouting, more footsteps, the baying of hunting wolves. I ran until my paws bled, until I couldn't breathe, until I collapsed against a tree and waited to die. That's when the figure appeared. They wore a wolf skull mask, white bone gleaming in the moonlight. A dark cloak obscured their body, their scent, everything that might identify them. I tried to snarl, to defend myself, but I was too exhausted. The figure knelt beside me. "You are Aurelia Solana," they said. Their voice was neither male nor female, distorted somehow. "Daughter of the Golden Wolf bloodline, and you are being hunted." I whimpered, "I can help you." They reached into their cloak and pulled out a small knife. "But it will hurt, and you must never tell anyone what I'm about to do." Before I could react, they grabbed my left front paw and carved a symbol into the pad, a complex rune that burned like acid. I yelped and tried to pull away, but their grip was iron. "This is a suppression rune," they said as they worked. "It will cage your shift, hide the gold, make you seem ordinary, broken even. People will think you cannot shift at all." The pain was unbearable. I thrashed and cried. "Never let them see the gold," the figure whispered urgently. "The king is searching for you. He's been searching since the day you were born. If he finds you before you're strong enough—" They didn't finish the sentence. The rune flared one final time, and my shift reversed. I became human again, a terrified 6-year-old girl with blood dripping from her left wrist. "You'll be found by a family named Casey," the figure said. "They will take you in. Say nothing of your true name. Say nothing of what you are. And when the time comes—" They stood, towering over me. "When you're strong enough, you'll know what to do." "Who are you?" I managed through tears, but the figure was already gone, melted into the shadows like they'd never existed. I was found an hour later by Joyce Casey, a kind-faced woman who'd been searching for firewood. She took one look at me, bloodied, crying, alone, and gathered me into her arms. "It's all right," she murmured. "You're safe now. I've got you." I told her my name was Alana, that my family had died in a fire, that I was alone in the world. She believed me, or if she didn't, she was kind enough to pretend. The Casey family raised me as their own, and I spent 12 years making sure no one ever saw the gold again. Present day. I stared at the suppression rune on my wrist. It had faded over the years, but the scar remained, a constant reminder of the night I'd lost everything. "Why did you save me?" I whispered to the empty chamber. "What did you want me to become?" No answer came. It never did. I made my way through the catacombs until I found the exit near the eastern wall. By the time I emerged into the night air, exhausted and covered in dust, I'd made a decision. I couldn't run. Running meant my family, the Caseys, would be punished for harboring me. They didn't deserve that. They'd shown me kindness when no one else would, which left only one option. I had to survive the trial of fire. Somehow. But first, I needed to know the truth about King Theron Reed. Was he truly cursed? Was he hunting me to break free, or to destroy the last golden wolf before she could expose him? And that meant doing something incredibly stupid. It meant breaking into the king's private chambers. Chapter 3. The King's Secrets. Breaking into the king's chambers required 3 things: timing, audacity, and a complete disregard for self-preservation. I had all 3 in abundance. The king held council every evening from sundown until the midnight bell. During that time, his private quarters were guarded but empty. The guards rotated in shifts. I'd been watching their patterns for 2 years, ever since I'd started working as a palace cleaning servant to gain access to restricted areas. Tonight, the guard rotation would change at the 11th bell. That gave me a 20-minute window when the corridor would be understaffed. I waited in the shadows of a servant's alcove, dressed in my usual gray, a cleaning bucket at my feet to justify my presence. My heart hammered against my ribs. The 11th bell rang. 2 guards marched past, heading toward the east wing. The replacement guards wouldn't arrive for another 3 minutes. I moved. The king's chambers were on the palace's top floor, in the oldest section of the building. The door was solid oak reinforced with iron, but I'd learned long ago that servants' entrances were always the weakest point in any security system. I slipped down a side corridor and found the narrow door that led to the king's private study, used by chambermaids to tend the fire and refresh the wine without disturbing him. It was locked, but I'd stolen the master key from the housekeeper's office months ago. The lock clicked. I slipped inside and eased the door shut behind me. The study was smaller than I'd expected. Dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk covered in maps and correspondence. A fire burned low in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the walls. And there, hanging above the fireplace, was a portrait. I stepped closer, my breath catching. The woman in the painting was young, maybe 20, with golden hair and eyes that seemed to glow even in oil paint. She wore a white gown and a crown of flowers, but it was her expression that stopped me cold. She looked exactly like me. Not similar, not reminiscent. Exactly like me. Same face, same bone structure, same slight crook to the nose where it had been broken and healed wrong. The only difference was her smile, genuine and unguarded in a way mine had never been. Below the portrait, a small plaque read, "Aurelia of House Solana, the first golden wolf. May her sacrifice not be forgotten." Sacrifice, not madness, not destruction. My hands trembled as I turned away from the portrait and approached the desk. If there were answers anywhere, they'd be here. The first drawer held routine correspondence, trade agreements, petitions from noble houses, requests for audience. Nothing useful. The second drawer was locked. I pulled a thin piece of wire from my pocket and worked the mechanism. It took 3 tries, but the lock finally gave. Inside was a single, leather-bound journal. The cover was worn smooth from handling, and when I opened it, I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was the same script as Lord Martin's historical account, but this journal was older, the pages yellowed and brittle. Private Journal of King Ferdinand Glass, year 198 of the New Dawn. King Theron's grandfather. I flipped to a random page and began to read. Month of Frost, day 12. The curse manifests stronger each day. I feel it in my chest, a hollowness where warmth should be. My advisors notice. They whisper when they think I cannot hear. The coven's punishment for my ancestors' crimes grows teeth with each passing year. Soon, I will be nothing but a shell, a king without a soul, driven by hunger and cruelty rather than reason. I have studied the ancient texts. Only one thing can break this curse, a golden wolf, freely given to the bond. Not forced, not coerced. They must choose to save us. But there are no golden wolves left. We hunted them to extinction. Our fear killed our only salvation. I turned the page, my pulse racing.
Month of Frost, Day 28.
I was wrong. There is one golden wolf remaining. Her name is Aurelia. She came to me of her own accord, having discovered the truth about the curse through her own research. Brilliant woman. Beautiful. Fierce. She says she can break the curse, but the cost will be high. The golden fire must burn away the darkness, and she is not certain she will survive the process. I told her not to try, that I would rather die cursed than see her sacrificed. She laughed at me, called me a fool, said some things were worth dying for. Gods help me, I think I'm falling in love with her. My throat tightened. I flipped ahead, desperate for more. Month of Thaw, Day 3. Aurelia attempted the ritual last night. She succeeded in burning away part of the curse. I felt it lift from my chest like a weight removed. For the first time in months, I could breathe without feeling the void inside me. But she was right about the cost. The golden fire consumed her from within. She burned so brightly I couldn't look directly at her, and when the flames finally died, there was nothing left but ash and a single golden feather. She's gone. My Aurelia is gone, and the curse remains, diminished but not destroyed. It will return in 3 generations, my grandson's grandson, and there will be no golden wolf to save him. The journal entries ended there. The remaining pages were blank except for one final note, written in a different hand, shakier, more desperate. I am King Theron Reed, and I am the cursed heir my grandfather feared. The darkness grows stronger each day. I have perhaps 2 years before it consumes me completely. 2 years to find the impossible, a golden wolf who will choose to save a monster. But golden wolves are extinct. Aurelia was the last, unless the old legends are true, unless she didn't die, unless she was reborn. I closed the journal with shaking hands. He knew. King Theron knew about the reincarnation prophecy. That's why he'd instituted the trial of fire, not to enforce strength, but to force every shifter in the kingdom to reveal themselves. He was searching for me. Specifically, me. Find what you were looking for? I spun around. King Theron stood in the doorway to his bedchamber, still dressed in his council robes. His expression was unreadable. Your Majesty, My mind raced, searching for an excuse, a lie, anything. Don't. He stepped into the study and closed the door behind him. Don't insult us both with a story about cleaning duties. I opened my mouth, closed it. There was nothing to say that wouldn't make this worse. He crossed to the desk and gently took the journal from my hands. My grandfather's confession. Not exactly light reading. I'm sorry, I whispered. I shouldn't have. You shouldn't have broken into the king's private chambers, picked the lock on his desk, and read his family's darkest secrets? He raised an eyebrow. No, probably not. He set the journal down and turned to face me fully. We were close enough that I could see the dark circles under his eyes, the tightness around his mouth that spoke of pain he was trying to hide. But I'm glad you did, he said quietly. I blinked. What? I've been watching you for months, Alana. Or should I say, Aurelia? My blood turned to ice. The girl who never shifts. The girl who appeared from nowhere 12 years ago with no family, no history, no explanation. He tilted his head slightly. The girl who looks exactly like my grandfather's golden wolf. I don't know what you're talking about. Your left wrist, he said. May I see it? I instinctively pressed my wrist against my side. No. Then I'll assume I'm right about the suppression rune. He didn't sound angry, just tired. You've been hiding in my palace for years, watching me, studying the archives, learning everything you could about golden wolves and curses and the royal family's sins. If you knew, I said, my voice shaking, why didn't you arrest me? Execute me, turn me over to your guards. Because, he said, and something in his expression shifted, became almost vulnerable. You're the only chance I have. The only chance this kingdom has, and I was terrified that if I approached you too directly, you'd run. So the trial of fire was meant to force your hand, yes, to give you a choice. Reveal yourself or abandon your family to punishment. He looked away. I'm not proud of the manipulation, but I'm running out of time, Aurelia. In 6 months, maybe less, the curse will take me completely. I'll become the monster my grandfather feared, and there's no one left who can stop it. I stared at him, at this man who'd seemed so cold, so untouchable from a distance. Up close, he just looked desperate. You want me to bond with you, I said slowly, like your grandmother did with your grandfather. Use the golden fire to burn away the curse. No. His voice was sharp. I want you to have a choice, a real one. Not coercion, not manipulation. That's why I haven't confronted you before now. But I broke into your chambers. And I let you. A faint smile touched his lips. I've known about your late-night visits to the archives for over a year. I've been leaving documents where you'd find them, breadcrumbs leading you to the truth. My mind reeled. The journal. You wanted me to read it. I wanted you to understand what you're walking into, what the cost might be. He stepped closer, and I caught his scent again, cedar and smoke and that darkness underneath stronger now. My grandmother died trying to save my grandfather. The golden fire consumed her. If you attempt the same ritual, I might die too, I finished. Yes. We stood in silence. The fire crackled in the hearth. Outside, the midnight bell began to toll. Why me? I asked finally. Why does it have to be me specifically? Because the curse and the cure are linked. My grandfather's bond with Aurelia created a resonance, a connection between our bloodlines. Only her reincarnation can finish what she started. He paused. At least, that's what the ancient texts claim. I could be wrong. This could all be a desperate king grasping at prophecies and myths. But you don't think you're wrong? No. I felt it the moment I saw you in the courtyard, like recognition, like something in my blood knew something in yours. His dark eyes met mine. Tell me you didn't feel it too. I had felt it, the strange pull, the way my suppression rune had burned when he came near. The sense of familiarity with a man I'd never spoken to before today. Even if I wanted to help you, I said carefully, I don't know how. I've spent 12 years caging my shift. I don't know if I can even access the golden fire anymore. Then we have 3 weeks to find out. He held out his hand. Work with me, Aurelia, not as a subject to her king, as partners, allies, 2 people trying to prevent a catastrophe. I looked at his outstretched hand, looked at the portrait of my previous self above the fireplace, looked at the journal filled with a grandfather's desperate hope. I thought about the Casey family, who'd raised me with kindness, about the kingdom that would suffer under a soulless king, about the girl I'd been at 6 years old, running through the forest with blood on her paws. If I do this, I said, not taking his hand yet, I need something from you first. Name it. The truth. All of it. No more breadcrumbs, no more manipulation. Tell me everything you know about the curse, the prophecy, and what happened to the original Aurelia. Everything. He lowered his hand, but nodded. Agreed. But not here. The walls have ears, and there are people in this court who would kill us both if they knew what we're planning. Then where? A slight smile. Do you trust me? Absolutely not. Smart woman. He moved to the bookshelf and pulled a specific volume. The shelf swung inward, revealing a hidden passage. But trust has to start somewhere. Come with me. I'll show you something no one else in this kingdom knows exists. I hesitated at the threshold of the secret passage. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, that following the cursed king into a hidden tunnel was monumentally stupid. But I'd already committed to monumentally stupid the moment I broke into his chambers. I stepped into the passage. The shelf swung closed behind us, and we descended into darkness together. Chapter 4. The Hidden Sanctuary. The passage was narrow and steep, carved directly into the palace's foundation. King Theron moved ahead of me with the confidence of someone who'd walked this path 1,000 times. He carried a small mage light that cast blue-white illumination across the rough stone walls. "How far down does this go?" I asked, my voice echoing strangely. "Deep enough that no one will hear us. Deep enough that even magical eavesdropping fails." He glanced back at me. "My grandfather built this place. After Aurelia died, he became paranoid, convinced that the noble houses would use the curse against him if they discovered it." "Were they the ones who created the official histories? The lies about golden wolves being monsters?" "Some of them, yes. The covens placed the curse, but it was certain noble families who'd participated in the original genocide, the purge of magical bloodlines a century ago. They couldn't allow the truth to surface, so they rewrote history, made golden wolves into villains instead of victims." We reached the bottom of the stairs and emerged into a circular chamber. I stopped, my breath catching. It was a library. But unlike the archives above, this one was alive with magic. Books floated in gentle orbits around the room. Scrolls unfurled themselves when approached, their contents glowing faintly. At the center stood a table carved from a single piece of white marble, and on it lay a collection of artifacts that made my skin prickle with power. "Welcome to the sanctuary," Theron said. "Everything my grandfather collected about golden wolves, the curse, and the ancient magic is here. He spent the last 20 years of his life searching for answers he never found." I moved to the table, drawn by the artifacts. A golden feather, perfectly preserved. A vial of what looked like liquid sunlight. A crown made of intertwined flames that somehow didn't burn. "These belonged to her," I whispered. "To Aurelia." "Yes, the feather is all that remained after she burned. My grandfather kept it close until the day he died." Theron stood on the opposite side of the table. "The vial contains her essence, distilled golden fire, and the crown was hers by birthright. Golden wolves weren't just shifters, Aurelia. They were royalty in their own right, long before the current kingdoms existed." I reached toward the feather but stopped just short of touching it. "What happens if I don't know. I've never been able to touch any of these items. They reject me." He demonstrated, reaching for the vial. The moment his fingers neared it, the liquid inside roiled and sparked. He pulled back. "They recognize the curse in my blood. But you—" I took a breath and touched the feather. Warmth flooded through me, not painful but intense, like standing too close to a bonfire. My suppression rune blazed hot, then suddenly cool. The feather began to glow. Images flashed through my mind. A woman with golden hair standing before a king, her hands wreathed in flame. "I can save you, but you must trust me completely." The same woman screaming as fire consumed her from within. "Finish it! Promise me someone will finish!" Darkness. Then a voice, neither male nor female. "She will return. The Golden One always returns. And when she does, the choice will be hers alone." I yanked my hand back, gasping. The feather's glow faded. "What did you see?" Theron asked urgently. "Her. I saw her dying. She was trying to tell someone something, but the fire—" I pressed my palm against my chest, trying to slow my racing heart. "She didn't finish breaking the curse. She died before she could complete the ritual." Theron's expression darkened. "That matches what my grandfather wrote. The curse was weakened but not destroyed. It would lie dormant for 3 generations, then return in full force." "Why 3 generations? Why not immediately?" "Because that's how curse magic works. It needs time to rebuild its power, to sink its roots deep into the bloodline." He moved around the table toward me. "The covens who cast it wanted to make sure the royal families suffered. Not just one king, but multiple generations. A legacy of darkness." I looked at him properly then, studied the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he held himself like a man carrying an impossible weight. "How bad is it?" I asked quietly. "The curse. What does it feel like?" He hesitated, then answered with brutal honesty. "Like drowning in ice. like there's a void where my heart should be, and it's slowly consuming everything else. Emotions become distant, muted. I can still feel them, but they're filtered through this terrible coldness. He paused. The worst part is the hunger. Hunger for what? Power, control, cruelty. His voice dropped. Sometimes I catch myself thinking things that horrify me, considering actions that would make me a monster, and each day it gets a little easier to imagine actually doing them. The admission hung in the air between us. "Is that why you instituted the trial of fire?" I asked. "Not just to find me, but to give yourself a concrete goal? Something to focus on besides the darkness?" A bitter smile. Perceptive. Yes, I needed a purpose beyond simply waiting for the void to swallow me. And I needed... He trailed off. Needed what? Hope. The word came out raw. I needed to believe there was still a chance, that I wasn't already lost. I thought about the journal entries, about his grandfather's desperate love for the woman who'd tried to save him, about the cycle of curses and sacrifice that seemed destined to repeat itself. "Show me the prophecy," I said, "the complete version, not the fragments in the archives, but the original text." Theron nodded and moved to one of the floating books. It descended at his gesture, opening to a page covered in script that seemed to shimmer and shift. He read aloud. "When darkness claims the throne and shadow eats the light, the Golden One shall rise again, born of fire and sacrifice. She is the breaker of chains, the burner of lies, the flame that purifies or consumes. 2 paths lie before her, salvation or destruction. She may choose to save the Shadow King, binding their fates together in eternal balance. Light and dark, fire and ice, 2 halves of a broken whole. But the cost is high. She will burn, as all golden wolves burn, and what remains may not be enough to sustain the flame. Or she may choose to let the darkness fall, to watch the cursed kingdom crumble and from its ashes build something new. In this path, she remains free but forever alone, the last of her kind, guardian of a truth no one will remember. The choice is hers and hers alone. Not even fate can force the Golden One's hand, for free will is the only magic stronger than any curse." Silence fell when he finished reading. "So I either bond with you and risk burning away to nothing," I said slowly, "or I let you fall to the curse and watch the kingdom collapse." "In essence, yes. Those are terrible options. I'm aware." He closed the book, and it floated back to its orbit. "Which is why I'm not asking you to choose right now. I'm asking you to train, to learn to access your golden fire, to understand what you're truly capable of. And then, when you have all the information, when you understand the full scope of what you'd be sacrificing or saving," he met my eyes, "then you choose." "And if I choose to walk away? To let the curse run its course?" I expected anger or at least disappointment. Instead, he just looked tired. "Then I'll face it alone, as I always knew I might, and I'll do my best to spare the kingdom the worst of it." He paused. "I've already made arrangements. If the darkness takes me completely, my commanders have orders to end my life, quickly, mercifully, before I can do irreparable harm." The casual way he discussed his own execution made my chest tight. "You've thought about this a lot," I said. "I've thought about little else for 3 years, since the day I felt the void open in my chest and realized what I was becoming." He looked away. "I won't be like the cursed kings in the histories. I won't let the darkness use me to hurt innocent people. Death is preferable." I studied him, this man I'd feared and avoided for so long. He wasn't the tyrant I'd imagined. He was just someone trying desperately not to become one. "I'll train," I said finally. "I'll learn to access the golden fire, but I'm not promising anything beyond that." Relief flickered across his face. "That's all I'm asking. And in exchange, you'll tell me everything. No more secrets, no more manipulation." "Agreed. And you'll help me find the person in the wolf skull mask, the one who gave me this suppression rune." I held up my scarred wrist. "They said you'd been searching for me since the day I was born. They knew things. I need to know who they are." Theron's expression shifted to surprise. Someone gave you a suppression rune? That shouldn't be possible. Those runes require ancient magic, the kind that's been lost for generations. Well, someone found it, and they've been watching me for 12 years without revealing themselves. I crossed my arms. If we're going to do this, if I'm going to even consider bonding with you, I need to know who else is pulling strings in my life. Fair enough. He moved to the table and pulled out a blank piece of parchment. Describe them, everything you remember. I closed my eyes, pulling up the memory of that night in the forest. Tall, maybe 6 feet. They wore a wolf skull mask, actual bone, not carved wood. Dark cloak, but I couldn't see what was underneath. Their voice was distorted, like they were using magic to disguise it. Did they have a scent? I frowned. No. Now that you mention it, they had no scent at all. Like they'd erased it completely. Theron's hand stilled over the parchment. That's troubling. Scent erasure at that level requires master-level magic. There are maybe 5 people in the kingdom capable of it, and I know all of them. Could it be someone from outside the kingdom? Possibly, or someone we don't know about, someone who's been hiding their abilities. He made a few notes. I'll have my spies make inquiries, quietly. If this person has been protecting you, they might not appreciate us investigating them. Or they might be waiting for us to figure it out, I countered. They told me that when I was strong enough, I'd know what to do. Maybe this, us working together, is what they wanted all along. A manipulator with good intentions? That's a dangerous combination. Says the king who's been leaving breadcrumbs in archives for a year. He had the grace to look sheepish. Point taken. A comfortable silence settled between us. I found myself staring at the golden feather again, at the physical reminder of the woman I'd apparently been in a previous life. Can I ask you something? I said quietly. Of course. Did your grandfather, did he love her? Truly? Or was it just desperation? Theron considered the question. I think it started as desperation, a cursed king grasping for salvation, but his later journal entries... He pulled out the leather journal from inside his robe. He must have grabbed it before we descended. He flipped to a page near the end and read, I would rather die cursed than live without her. If I could take back that night, I would. I would tell her to run, to save herself, to let me face the darkness alone. Her life was worth more than mine, worth more than this kingdom. I will spend the rest of my days trying to be worthy of her sacrifice, knowing I never can be. Theron closed the journal. He loved her, and it destroyed him when she died. I swallowed against the tightness in my throat.
The prophecy says I might burn away, like she did.
Yes. And you're still asking me to try? No. I'm asking you to learn what you're capable of, then make an informed choice. If you decide the risk is too high, I'll understand. I'll accept it. His dark eyes held mine. I won't let history repeat itself, Aurelia. I won't be the selfish king who sacrifices the woman he stopped abruptly. The woman he what? I pressed. The woman he needs, he finished, but his scent spiked with something that smelled like a lie. Before I could call him on it, a bell chimed from somewhere above. Theron's head snapped up. That's the emergency bell. Something's happened. He was already moving toward the stairs. We need to get back. I grabbed the golden feather. It came away from the table easily this time, warm in my palm, and followed him. We emerged into his study just as someone pounded on the outer door. Your Majesty, a guard's voice, urgent. There's been an attack at the western gate, 3 guards dead, and the attacker left a message. Theron opened the door. What message? The guard's face was pale. They carved it into the gate, Your Majesty. It says, the trial of fire will burn more than wolves. 3 weeks until the truth consumes you all. My blood ran cold. Theron's expression went deadly. Seal the gates. No one enters or leaves without my personal authorization. Double the guard rotations, and bring me whoever witnessed the attack. Yes, Your Majesty. The guard hurried away. Theron turned to me. You need to leave, now. If anyone saw you enter my chambers, I'll use the servants' entrance. No one will know. I moved toward the hidden door, then paused. Theron? It was the first time I'd used his name. He noticed, his expression softening slightly. Be careful, I said. Whoever attacked those guards, they know about the trial. They're planning something. I know, which is why we need to accelerate your training.
If someone is trying to disrupt the trial,
They might be trying to stop you from finding me, I finished, or trying to force me to reveal myself prematurely. Either way, we're running out of time. He crossed to me and, without warning, pressed something into my hand. Take this. It's a summoning stone. If you're in danger, crush it and I'll come. Immediately. I looked down at the small blue crystal. Why would you? Because despite what you think, I'm not entirely heartless. And because, he hesitated, because you're important. Not just to breaking the curse, to me. The admission hung between us, raw and unexpected. I should go, I said, clutching the crystal. Yes, and Aurelia, tomorrow night, meet me in the training grounds behind the Eastern Barracks. We'll begin your lessons. I nodded and slipped out through the servants' entrance, my mind racing. Someone had attacked the palace. Someone knew about the trial and wanted to send a message, and I had less than 3 weeks to figure out who and why before everything burned.
Chapter 5. The First Lesson.
I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my small room in the servants' quarters, staring at the ceiling and turning the golden feather over in my hands. It still radiated warmth, a constant reminder of what I was supposed to be. The woman in my memories had been powerful, confident. She'd walked into the palace and offered to save a cursed king without hesitation. I was none of those things. I was a girl who'd spent 12 years hiding, afraid of her own shadow. How was I supposed to become her? The summoning stone Theron had given me sat on the small table beside my bed, glowing faintly in the darkness. I wondered if he was sleeping, or if the curse kept him awake too, whispering dark thoughts in the silence. When dawn finally broke, I rose and went through my usual routine. Dressed in gray, pinned my dark hair back, rubbed ash on my face to make myself look paler, more forgettable. But my hands shook as I tied my apron. Everything had changed in the span of a single night. I wasn't invisible anymore. The king knew what I was. And somewhere out there, someone had killed 3 guards and left a threat carved into the palace gates. I made my way to the kitchens for the morning meal. The servants were already buzzing with gossip about the attack. Heard it was a shifter, one of the cooks was saying. Big as a horse, with claws that could shred iron. Don't be ridiculous, another countered. Shifters can't get past the wards. It had to be someone already inside the palace. Or someone with magic strong enough to break the wards, a third voice added darkly. I kept my head down and collected my portion of bread and cheese, trying to blend into the background. But as I turned to leave, someone blocked my path. Wes Vincent stood there, grinning like we were old friends. Alana, just the person I wanted to see. I tried to step around him. I'm busy. Busy hiding from the king's guards? Because I saw them searching the servants' quarters this morning, looking for someone who was seen near His Majesty's chambers last night. My stomach dropped. I don't know what you're talking about. Course you don't. His grin widened, which is why I told them I saw you in the kitchens all evening, helping with the council dinner preparations. I stared at him. Why would you lie for me? Because I'm curious. And because I think you're much more interesting than you pretend to be. He leaned in slightly. Also, I'm bored. Palace life is terribly dull when you're not supposed to be here in the first place. What do you mean, not supposed to be here? Long story. Buy me a drink sometime and I'll tell you. He winked. But right now you should know that Lord Britt is looking for you. Something about the archives being disturbed. He's convinced someone has been stealing restricted documents. My pulse quickened. I haven't stolen anything. Didn't say you did, but maybe avoid him for a few days, yeah? At least until after the trial. Wes's expression turned serious for just a moment. Speaking of which, you planning to attend? I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, Alana. Some choices just have worse consequences than others. He stepped aside, finally letting me pass. Be careful. Things are about to get very messy around here. I left the kitchens with more questions than answers. Who was Wes Vincent, really? And why did he seem to know far more than he should? The day dragged by in a haze of nervous energy. I went through the motions of my duties, scrubbing floors, changing linens, emptying chamber pots, but my mind was elsewhere. On the coming night, on the training, on what would happen when I finally tried to access the golden fire I'd suppressed for 12 years. As evening fell, I changed into the darkest clothes I owned and made my way to the Eastern Barracks. The training grounds behind them were used by the king's personal guard for night drills, but tonight they were empty. Theron was already there, dressed in simple training leathers instead of his usual royal garb. He looked younger like this, less intimidating, almost human. "You came," he said, sounding genuinely relieved. "I said I would." I glanced around the empty grounds. "Where are your guards?" I sent them away. "What we're about to do needs to be private." He gestured to the center of the training ring. "Come, stand here." I joined him in the ring. The ground beneath my feet was packed earth, scarred with the marks of countless sparring matches. "First lesson," Theron said. "Tell me what you know about golden wolves. Not the propaganda, but the truth." I thought about all the texts I'd read, all the hours spent in the archives piecing together fragments of forbidden history. Golden wolves are born, not made. The gift passes through bloodlines, but it skips generations unpredictably. They're more powerful than any other shifter, stronger, faster, more resilient. I paused. And they have abilities beyond shifting. The golden fire can heal or harm. It can burn away curses, break enchantments, compel truth. Good. What else? They can't be controlled. Collars, binding spells, compulsion magic, none of it works on golden wolves. That's one reason they were feared. Power that can't be leashed is dangerous to those who want to maintain control. Theron nodded approvingly. And what do you know about the fire itself? How it works? Less than I should, I admitted. The texts describe it as both a gift and a burden. It burns brightest when protecting others, but it consumes the user if channeled too long or too intensely. Golden wolves who pushed too hard, I trailed off. Burned themselves to ash, Theron finished quietly. Like Aurelia. The fire is fueled by life force. Push it beyond your limits and there's nothing left. Comforting. A ghost of a smile. I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to prepare you for what accessing this power will feel like. He moved closer, and I caught his scent, cedar and smoke and that ever-present darkness. The suppression rune on your wrist has been caging your fire for 12 years. When we break it, the release will be intense, possibly overwhelming. When we break it? I thought I'd be doing this alone. The rune is old magic, Aurelia. Ancient. You can't break it from the inside. You'd need external power to shatter the binding. He held out his hand. That's where I come in. I stared at his outstretched hand. What exactly are you planning to do? Channel my power through the rune. Create a fracture point you can exploit from the inside. But I need to warn you, my power is cursed, dark. It's going to feel wrong when it touches you. How wrong? Like ice water in your veins, like drowning, like... He stopped, searching for words. Like the opposite of everything you are. I swallowed hard. And if something goes wrong? Then we stop, immediately. I'm not going to let you get hurt. The conviction in his voice was unmistakable. You have to trust me, just for this moment. Can you do that? Could I? Trust the cursed king who'd manipulated me into revealing myself? Trust the man who needed me to save him from a darkness that grew stronger every day? But I'd already come this far. already committed to learning what I was capable of. I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, and immediately I felt it. The cold. It seeped into my skin like frost, spreading up my arm toward my chest. My instinct was to pull away, but Theron's grip tightened. "Don't fight it," he said, his voice strained. "Let it flow to the rune. Guide it there." I focused on the scar on my wrist, on the 12-year-old binding that had kept me safe and small and hidden. The cold reached it, and the rune flared to life, burning hot in response. Light and dark, fire and ice, opposing forces meeting in my flesh. "Now," Theron gritted out, "push against it, from the inside." I closed my eyes and reached for the thing I'd kept caged for so long. The golden fire that lived beneath my ribs, coiled and dormant and waiting. It rose at my call. Heat flooded through me, rushing toward the rune like a dam breaking. For a moment, the opposing forces held in perfect tension. Theron's icy darkness and my burning light locked in stalemate. Then, the rune cracked. The sound was like breaking glass. The suppression shattered, and 12 years of caged power exploded outward. I screamed. Gold light erupted from my body, blinding and hot and utterly beyond my control. I felt my bones shift, felt the wolf rising, felt the fire burning through every nerve. "Aurelia!" Theron's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Control it! Pull it back!" But I didn't know how. The power was a wildfire, consuming everything in its path. I was drowning in light, burning from the inside out. Then Theron did something I didn't expect. He grabbed my face with both hands and pressed his forehead against mine. The cold rushed in again, but this time it wasn't invading, it was grounding, anchoring. His darkness wrapped around my light like a cage, not to suppress, but to contain, to give the fire boundaries. "Breathe," he commanded, his voice directly in my mind somehow. "You're not the fire. You control the fire. It doesn't control you." I focused on his voice, on the cold steadiness of his presence, on the feeling of his hands against my skin. Slowly, incrementally, the fire receded. The light dimmed. My bones settled back into human shape. When I finally opened my eyes, I was kneeling on the ground, gasping for breath. Theron knelt in front of me, his hands still cupping my face, his own breathing ragged. "That," he said shakily, "was more intense than I anticipated." I laughed. It came out half-sob. "You think?" He helped me to my feet, and I realized my clothes were smoking slightly. The ground around us was scorched in a perfect circle, the earth blackened and still glowing faintly with residual heat. "Did I shift?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "Almost. You were halfway between forms when I pulled you back." He released me reluctantly, and I immediately felt the loss of his steadying cold. "How do you feel?" I took inventory. My skin felt too tight. My senses were sharper. I could hear heartbeats from the barracks, smell the smoke from fires blocks away. The world seemed brighter, more vivid. "Different," I said. "Like I've been seeing through fog my whole life and someone just cleared it away." The rune was dampening more than just your shift. It was suppressing your enhanced senses, too. Theron studied me intently. "Can you feel the fire now? Is it still there?" I turned my attention inward and found it immediately, a warm glow beneath my ribs, no longer caged but not running wild either, just present, waiting. "Yes, it's quieter now, like it's resting." "Good. That means you can access it without it overwhelming you. That's the first step." He moved to the edge of the scorched circle. "Tomorrow night, we work on controlled release, small bursts of flame, precision work." "Tomorrow? Theron, I can barely stand." "Which is why you need to build your endurance. We have less than 3 weeks until the trial, and you need to be able to shift fully and maintain it without burning yourself out." His expression softened slightly. "I know it's difficult. I know you're exhausted, but the curse doesn't wait. I know." I straightened, forcing strength into my legs. "Tomorrow night, same time." He looked like he wanted to say something else, but footsteps approached from the direction of the barracks. Theron tensed. "You need to go, now." I didn't argue. I slipped into the shadows and made my way back toward the servants' quarters, my body aching and my mind reeling from everything that had just happened. I'd felt the golden fire, touched the power that had been sleeping inside me for 12 years, and it had been glorious and terrifying in equal measure. As I rounded the corner near the kitchens, someone grabbed my arm and yanked me into an alcove. I spun, ready to fight, and found myself face to face with a figure in a wolf skull mask. My breath stopped. "You broke the rune," they said in that distorted, genderless voice I remembered from childhood. "Foolish girl. You've started something you may not be able to finish." "Who are you?" I demanded. "Why did you give me that rune? Why have you been watching me?" "Because someone had to protect you until you were ready. But ready and prepared are not the same thing." They released my arm. "The king is not your only enemy, Aurelia Solana. There are forces moving in this palace that want you dead before you can complete the bonding ritual." "What forces? Who?" "The trial of fire will be a trap. They will try to kill you in front of the entire kingdom and make it look like an accident. You must be ready to fight, or you will burn for nothing." "Then help me. Tell me who they are." But the figure was already backing away into the darkness. "Trust no one but the cursed king. And even him, trust carefully. Darkness has a way of consuming everything it touches." Then they were gone, vanished like smoke. I stood in the alcove, trembling with adrenaline and unanswered questions. Someone wanted me dead. The trial would be a trap, and I had less than 3 weeks to prepare for a threat I couldn't even identify. I made my way back to my room and collapsed onto my narrow bed, exhaustion finally claiming me. As I drifted toward sleep, I felt the golden fire pulse beneath my ribs, a steady, warm reminder that I was no longer the powerless girl who'd spent 12 years hiding. For better or worse, I was becoming something else, something dangerous. Chapter 6. The Alliance Offer. 2 weeks until the trial. The training became my entire world. Every night I met Theron in the Eastern Training Grounds. Every night, we pushed the boundaries of what my golden fire could do. Small flames at first, candle-sized bursts I could summon and dismiss at will. Then larger, hotter, more controlled. By the end of the first week, I could coat my hands in golden fire without burning myself. By the end of the second, I could shift partially, just my eyes, turning them molten gold, or just my hands, manifesting claws wreathed in flame. But a full shift remained elusive. Every time I tried, the power threatened to overwhelm me, and Theron would have to pull me back with his stabilizing darkness. "You're fighting it," he said on the 10th night, watching me struggle to complete the transformation. "Stop trying to control every aspect of the shift. Let your instincts guide you." "My instincts want to burn everything," I gasped, forcing the partial shift back down. Sweat dripped down my face despite the cool night air. "Then maybe that's what you need to do." He gestured to the training dummy at the far end of the grounds, a man-shaped target stuffed with straw. "Shift. Attack. Let the fire have a target that isn't you." I stared at the dummy, then at my trembling hands. "What if I can't stop once I start?" "Then I'll stop you. That's what I'm here for." He moved to stand behind me, close enough that I could feel his presence like a cold anchor at my back. "I won't let you burn, Aurelia. I promise." I took a breath and reached for the fire. This time, I didn't try to control it. I just let go. The shift took me like a wave. My bones cracked and reformed. My skin rippled with golden fur. The world tilted and sharpened into new spectrums of color and scent. When it was done, I stood on 4 paws and everything felt right for the first time in 12 years. I was massive, larger than any wolf I'd ever seen. My fur glowed like captured sunlight, casting shadows across the training grounds. And the fire sang in my blood, begging to be released. I focused on the dummy and roared. The sound wasn't quite wolf, it was something older, more primal. And with it came flame. Golden fire exploded from my jaws, engulfing the dummy in seconds. The straw ignited, the wooden frame beneath it charred and cracked. Within moments, there was nothing left but ash. I turned, searching for another target, the fire still hungry. Theron stepped into my line of sight. His hands were raised, not in surrender, but in offering. His scent washed over me, cedar and smoke, and that darkness that somehow didn't repel me anymore. Instead, it grounded me, reminded me who I was beneath the fire. "Aurelia," he said quietly, "come back, you've done enough." The fire wanted to test him, wanted to see if his darkness could withstand my light. But I was more than the fire. I pulled it back, forced the shift to reverse, and became human again. I collapsed to my knees, gasping. Theron was there immediately, his hands on my shoulders, steadying me. "You did it. A complete shift, and you came back on your own." "Barely," I managed. "Barely is still success." He helped me to my feet. "How do you feel?" "Like I could sleep for a week, or burn down the palace, I'm not sure which." A rare smile crossed his face. The duality of golden fire, destruction and protection, all wrapped together. We stood there in the aftermath of my first successful shift, surrounded by scorched earth and ash. I realized Theron hadn't let go of my shoulders yet, and I hadn't pulled away. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Always." "Why does your darkness stabilize my fire? The prophecy says we're opposites, light and shadow, fire and ice. We should repel each other." His expression grew thoughtful. "I've been wondering that myself. The best theory I have is that we're not truly opposites. We're complements, two halves of a balance." He paused. "The curse in my blood is a void. It consumes. Your fire is creation. It transforms. Together, they neutralize each other. Or at least, that's the hope. And if they don't? If we attempt the bonding ritual and instead of balancing, we destroy each other? Then we both burn." He said it matter-of-factly, like he'd already accepted that possibility. "But at least the curse dies with us. The kingdom would be free." I stared at him. "You've really made peace with dying, haven't you?" "I've had 3 years to prepare for it, though I'll admit." His hands dropped from my shoulders and he looked away. "The idea of dying was easier when I thought I'd face it alone. Now that you're here, now that there's a chance for something different, it's harder. Because you have hope again? Because I have something to lose." He met my eyes, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. "Before you, there was just duty, responsibility, the kingdom's needs. But you make me want things I have no right to want." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Theron," voices echoed from the direction of the barracks, multiple people moving fast. Theron's expression shifted instantly from vulnerable to guarded. "Hide, now." I didn't argue. I slipped into the shadows at the edge of the training grounds, just as a group of guards rounded the corner, led by Lord Britt. "Your Majesty," Britt said, his voice sharp with barely concealed irritation. "Training alone again? Without your guards? After the recent attack, this is highly irregular." "I don't recall asking for your opinion on my training schedule, Lord Britt," Theron replied coolly. "Nevertheless, the council is concerned. We've had 3 more incidents this week, guards found unconscious, restricted areas breached, and someone has been repeatedly accessing the archives without authorization." Britt's eyes swept the training grounds, lingering on the scorched earth. "What happened here?" "Combat training, magic enhanced." "I see, and the enhancement came from—" "My personal reserves. Are you questioning my ability to manage my own power, Lord Britt?" The threat in Theron's voice was unmistakable. Britt backed down, but his expression remained suspicious. "Of course not, Your Majesty. I merely wish to inform you that we've identified a suspect in the archive breaches, a servant girl. We're searching for her now." My blood ran cold. "A servant," Theron said flatly. "How concerning. I'm sure you'll handle it appropriately." "Indeed, though I wonder if Your Majesty knows her. She's been seen in this section of the palace several times. Goes by the name Alana." Silence stretched. I held my breath, waiting for Theron's response. I don't make a habit of learning servants' names, Lord Britt. If she's guilty of theft, arrest her. If not, leave her alone. Either way, I fail to see why this requires my personal attention at this hour. Britt's jaw tightened. My apologies, Your Majesty. We'll handle the matter internally. Good evening. He retreated with his guards, but not before casting one more suspicious glance at the scorched training grounds. I waited until they were well out of earshot before emerging from the shadows. He knows, I said. He knows someone's been helping me. Britt has suspected something for weeks. He's ambitious, sees conspiracies everywhere. Theron moved closer, lowering his voice. But he's right that this is becoming dangerous. We can't keep meeting like this. Someone will eventually connect you to these training sessions. Then what do we do? We accelerate the timeline. You can shift now. You can control the fire well enough to survive the trial. The rest, we'll figure out after you've revealed yourself publicly. And the bonding ritual? He hesitated. We discuss that after the trial. Once you've seen what revealing yourself truly means. Once you understand the full weight of what you'd be agreeing to. I wanted to argue, but he was right. I'd been so focused on learning to control my power that I hadn't fully considered what came after. What it would mean to stand before the entire kingdom as a golden wolf. What it would mean to bind myself to a cursed king for the rest of my life, however long that might be. Go, Theron said gently. Get some rest. We'll meet one more time before the trial. Final preparations. I nodded and turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Aurelia? I looked back. Thank you. For trusting me enough to try. I know it hasn't been easy. Nothing about this has been easy, I said. But I don't regret it. The words hung between us, weighted with everything we weren't saying. Then I slipped away into the night, leaving him alone in the scorched training grounds. I made it halfway back to the servants' quarters before someone stepped out of the shadows in front of me. Not the wolf skull figure this time. Someone else. He was lean and dark-haired, with a face that was almost handsome except for the cruelty in his eyes. He wore expensive clothes, but no house insignia, and his scent was wrong, masked, like he was hiding what he really was. Aurelia Solana, he said, and my name in his mouth sounded like a curse. Or should I call you Alana? It's so hard to keep track of all your lies. I didn't reach for the summoning stone in my pocket. Not yet. I don't know you. No, but I know you. I've known you since the night you were born. He smiled, and it didn't reach his eyes. I'm the one who told your adoptive family to reject you, who arranged for the wolf skull figure to save you, who's been pulling strings in your life for 18 years. My heart stopped. Why? Because you're a weapon, Aurelia. A very powerful weapon. And I needed you honed and ready for the moment when you'd be most useful. He stepped closer. The trial of fire is that moment. Who are you? I am Lamar Lane, bastard son of the late king, half-brother to your precious Theron. His smile widened. And I'm here to offer you a choice. I took a step back. This was the person the wolf skull figure had warned me about, the threat I couldn't identify. The king is cursed, Lamar continued. You know this. What you don't know is that he's been cursed for far longer than 3 years. The darkness has been consuming him since birth, slowly, subtly, turning him into something monstrous. By the time he took the throne, he was already lost. That's a lie. Is it? Tell me, Aurelia, have you ever wondered why he instituted mandatory military conscription? Why he doubled taxes on the lower districts? Why execution rates have tripled under his rule? Lamar's expression turned pitying. He's shown you his vulnerable side, his desperate hope, but he hasn't shown you the monster he becomes when the curse takes hold, when the void whispers in his mind. I thought about Theron's admission that sometimes he caught himself thinking terrible things, considering cruel actions. Even if what you're saying is true, I said carefully, what's your alternative? Let the curse consume him completely? Watch the kingdom fall? No. Kill him during the trial of fire. Use your golden fire to burn away the cursed bloodline entirely. Then help me rebuild the kingdom without the taint of ancient curses and dark magic. He held out his hand. I can give you freedom, Aurelia. True freedom. No bonding ritual. No risk of burning yourself to ash, just survival. And a chance to make the kingdom what it should have been all along. By committing regicide. By executing a mercy killing. He's dying anyway. You'd just be accelerating the inevitable, sparing him years of suffering under the curse's influence. I stared at his outstretched hand, at the offer he was making. Kill Theron, save myself, rebuild the kingdom with Lamar. Or trust Theron, risk the bonding, possibly die trying to break the curse. I need time to think, I said. You have until the trial. 3 days, Aurelia. Choose wisely. He stepped back into the shadows. Oh, and one more thing. The attack at the Western Gate? That was me. A demonstration of what I'm capable of. What I'm willing to do to see this through. Don't make the mistake of thinking I'm bluffing. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in the corridor with a choice I wasn't ready to make. I pulled out the summoning stone, turning it over in my palm. One crush and Theron would come. I could tell him about Lamar, about the threat, about the offer. But something stopped me. Lamar had raised questions I couldn't easily dismiss. Was Theron really the man he'd shown me in private? Or was he hiding his worst impulses, the way the curse made him? And more importantly, even if Theron was genuine, even if his desire to break the curse was real, was I willing to die for him? I pocketed the stone without crushing it. I had 3 days to decide whether to save the cursed king or kill him. 3 days to choose between mercy and survival, and no idea which path was right. Chapter 7. The Confrontation. I spent the next 2 days investigating. If Lamar was telling the truth, if Theron really had been enacting cruel policies, there would be evidence, records, witness accounts, something concrete beyond the claims of a self-proclaimed bastard brother with obvious motives. I started in the archives, pulling execution records from the past 3 years. The numbers were damning. Lamar had been right about one thing. Executions had tripled since Theron took the throne. But context mattered. I cross-referenced the records with crime reports and discovered that most executions were for treason, conspiracy, or attempts on the king's life. The rest were repeat violent offenders who'd been given multiple chances at rehabilitation. Still troubling, but not the indiscriminate slaughter Lamar had implied. Next, I investigated the tax increases. I had to break into the Treasury records room for this, another crime to add to my growing list. But what I found was more nuanced than Lamar's simple accusation. Yes, taxes on the lower districts had increased, but so had infrastructure spending. New wells, repaired roads, a public grain reserve for times of famine. The money was being used, not hoarded. Military conscription was harder to justify. Young men and women pulled from their families, forced to serve 2-year terms. But when I dug deeper, I found something interesting. The conscription had started 3 months after a failed invasion attempt by the northern kingdoms. Theron had been building defenses, not an army of conquest. Every cruel policy had a justification. Every harsh decision had context, which didn't mean they were right, but it did mean Lamar's characterization of Theron as a monster was incomplete. I was in the middle of copying a military logistics report when footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. I extinguished my candle and pressed myself into the shadows between the shelves, my heart hammering. The door opened. Torchlight spilled across the floor. "Absolutely certain she's been coming here," Lord Britt's voice said. "The night guards have seen her multiple times." "Then why haven't you arrested her?" That was Lamar. I recognized his voice now, smooth and persuasive. "Because His Majesty has been protective. Anytime I mention the servant girl, he deflects, changes the subject. It's highly irregular." "Perhaps he's using her for something," Lamar suggested. The king has always had peculiar tastes. That's what I'm afraid of. If she's gained some kind of influence over him. Britt trailed off meaningfully. They were moving through the archives now, searching. I crept along the back wall, using the shelves as cover, making my way toward the emergency exit I'd scouted weeks ago. "What do you know about her background?" Lamar asked. "Very little. She appeared 12 years ago. The Casey family took her in. Claims to be wolfless, though I have my doubts." "Doubts?" "Call it instinct. Something about her doesn't fit. The way she moves, the way she watches people." Britt paused. "I've requested a full investigation into her origins, but the records are strangely incomplete, almost as if someone has been erasing them." "How interesting." Lamar's voice had taken on a sharp edge. "And you think His Majesty is involved?" "I think someone with significant power is protecting her, whether that's the king or someone else." Britt sighed. "The trial of fire will reveal the truth. If she truly is wolfless, she'll be exposed. If she's hiding something more significant, then we'll finally know what she is," Lamar finished. I reached the emergency exit, a narrow door hidden behind a false panel, and slipped through just as their footsteps approached my section of shelves. The passage beyond was cramped and dark, but I'd memorized the route. 50 paces straight, turn left, climb the stairs, emerge near the servants' wing. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard the door open behind me. "Aurelia," Lamar's voice echoed in the narrow space. "I know you're here. I can smell the ash on you. All that golden fire leaves a trace." I froze, my hand on the wall. "You've been investigating me," he continued, his footsteps climbing slowly. "Smart. I'd have done the same. Did you find what you were looking for?" I could keep running, try to outpace him in the dark, but I was tired of running. I turned to face him. In the dim light filtering down from above, his expression was almost sympathetic. "You found that my brother isn't quite the monster I painted him as," Lamar said, "that his cruelties have justifications, that perhaps he's trying to be a good king despite the curse." "You lied to me." I exaggerated. "There's a difference." He stopped a few steps below me. "But I wasn't wrong about the curse itself. It is consuming him, Aurelia, slowly but inevitably. Everything he's done, every harsh policy, every difficult decision, he's had to fight the curse's influence to make them remotely reasonable. Imagine what he'll do when the curse finally wins. The bonding ritual will break the curse, or it will kill you both. There's no guarantee it will work. My grandmother tried and failed. What makes you think you'll succeed where she didn't?" It was the question I'd been asking myself for days. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I know that running away, letting him die, letting the kingdom fall, that's definitely failure. At least trying gives us a chance." "A chance to die painfully while the kingdom watches?" Lamar shook his head. "You're braver than I gave you credit for, or more foolish. I genuinely can't tell which." "Why do you care?" I demanded. "If you want the throne, just wait for the curse to kill Theron. Why try to recruit me?" "Because I don't want the throne. I want to save this kingdom from the curse that's plagued it for generations." His expression hardened. "My mother was executed when I was 10, accused of witchcraft because she tried to use magic to heal the poor. Theron's father ordered it, consumed by the same curse that's taking my brother now. I've watched this cycle destroy everything it touches." He climbed another step, and I saw genuine pain in his eyes. "I'm not the villain here, Aurelia. I'm trying to end the cycle the only way I know how, by removing the cursed bloodline entirely. Yes, that means Theron has to die, but one life to save thousands? That's not evil, that's mathematics. Theron isn't just a number in your equation, he's a person. A person who will become a monster if you fail, a person whose death is already inevitable." Lamar held out his hand. "Help me end this cleanly, mercifully, before more innocent people suffer." I looked at his outstretched hand, at the offer he was making. Part of me understood his logic. Part of me saw the terrible sense in it. But a larger part, the part that had spent 2 weeks training with Theron, watching him fight the darkness, seeing him choose kindness even when cruelty would be easier, couldn't accept it. No, I said. Lamar's expression didn't change, but his scent shifted. Disappointment mixed with something darker. That's unfortunate, he said quietly. I was hoping you'd see reason, that we could work together. We can't, because your solution requires me to become exactly what the kingdom has always feared, a golden wolf who uses her power to kill rather than save. And bonding with my brother requires you to become a martyr, a sacrifice on the altar of a cursed bloodline. His hand dropped. But I can see I won't convince you. So let me give you a warning instead. The trial of fire will not go as you expect. There are forces in motion you haven't accounted for, people who want you dead for reasons that have nothing to do with my brother or his curse. What people? The noble houses who orchestrated the original Golden Wolf genocide. They have descendants, Aurelia. Descendants who remember the old stories about golden wolves exposing their families' crimes. They won't allow you to survive the trial. He stepped back down. Watch your back. And when things go wrong, and they will, remember that I offered you an alternative. Then he retreated into the darkness, leaving me alone in the stairwell. I climbed the rest of the way and emerged into the servants' wing, my mind racing. Lamar was right about one thing. I didn't have the full picture. There were players I hadn't identified, threats I hadn't anticipated, and I had less than 24 hours before the trial of fire. I went to Theron. Not through official channels. I couldn't risk Brit's guards intercepting me. Instead, I used the summoning stone. I crushed it in my palm, and the crystal shattered into blue dust that rose and dissipated like smoke. Within minutes, Theron appeared in my small room, having traveled through whatever magic connected the summoning stone to him. He looked alarmed, his hair disheveled like he'd been sleeping. "What's wrong?" he demanded. "Are you hurt? Did someone—" "We need to talk. About your brother." His expression shifted from concern to something colder. "Lamar approached you. You knew he would?" "I suspected. He's been moving pieces into place for weeks. Guards loyal to him, nobles sympathetic to his cause." Theron moved to the window, checking the courtyard below before turning back to me. "What did he offer you?" "A chance to kill you during the trial. Make it look like an accident. Help him rebuild the kingdom without the cursed bloodline." "And you're here instead of taking him up on it? Should I be flattered?" The bitter sarcasm in his voice stung. "Don't," I said. "Don't pretend you expected me to betray you. If you really thought that, you wouldn't have given me the summoning stone in the first place." Some of the tension left his shoulders. "You're right. I'm sorry. It's just, Lamar is very good at finding people's doubts and exploiting them. I wasn't sure if I'd choose you over the easier path, the one that doesn't risk me burning to ash." I crossed my arms. "I spent 2 days investigating your policies, your decisions, looking for evidence that you were the monster he claimed you were." Theron went very still. And I found a king trying desperately to hold his kingdom together while fighting a curse that wants him to tear it apart. I found someone making hard choices, not because he enjoys cruelty, but because there are no good options. I met his eyes. "I also found someone who's been lying to me." "About what?" "About how much time you have left. You said 6 months when we first talked, but according to the medical records I found, your personal healer gives you 3 months at most, possibly less." His jaw tightened. "I didn't want to pressure you." "By lying about how urgent this is? That's not protecting me, Theron. That's manipulating me. Again." I felt the golden fire stir in my chest, responding to my anger. "How am I supposed to trust you when you keep hiding the truth?" "Because the truth is terrifying." His voice rose, frustration breaking through his usual control. "The truth is that I'm dying, that every day the void grows larger and my ability to resist it grows smaller, that sometimes I lie awake at night wondering if tomorrow will be the day I finally lose myself completely." He turned away, his hands clenching into fists. "The truth is that I'm asking you to risk everything, your life, your freedom, your future, to save someone who might already be beyond saving. And if I told you that, If I was completely honest about how desperate things really are, you might choose to walk away. And His voice dropped to a whisper. I don't think I could survive that. Knowing that my last hope looked at the real me and decided I wasn't worth saving. The raw vulnerability in his confession made my chest ache. I crossed the room and put my hand on his shoulder, turning him to face me. Then hear this truth, I said firmly. I'm not staying because I think you're easy to save. I'm staying because I've seen you fight the darkness every single day. I've watched you choose kindness when cruelty would be simpler. I've felt your power stabilize mine, your cold anchor my fire. We balance each other, Theron, and that means something. His dark eyes searched mine. Even knowing you might die trying? Even knowing that. Because some things are worth the risk. I paused. But no more lies. No more hiding how bad things are. If we're doing this, if we're attempting the bonding ritual, I need complete honesty. Deal? Deal. He caught my hand, the one still resting on his shoulder, and held it. The trial is tomorrow. After you reveal yourself, after the kingdom sees what you are, we'll have a small window. Maybe hours, maybe days. The bonding ritual has to happen during that window, or the chaos will consume us both. What kind of chaos? The noble houses will call for your execution. The people will panic. Lamar will make his move, trying to use the confusion to seize power. Theron's grip tightened on my hand. We'll need to perform the ritual quickly, before anyone can stop us. And it needs to be public enough that the kingdom witnesses it, sees the curse break, understands what we've done. A public magical ritual where I might burn to death in front of thousands of people. Wonderful. Despite everything, he almost smiled. When you put it that way, it does sound rather grim. Rather grim? It sounds like a nightmare. Yes, but it's our nightmare now, together. He raised my hand to his lips and kissed my knuckles, the same gesture he'd made 2 weeks ago, but it felt different now, more intimate, more real. Together, I echoed. We stood there in my small room, holding hands in the candlelight, two people bound by prophecy and circumstance, and something that felt dangerously close to trust. You should rest, Theron said finally. Tomorrow will be intense. Will you stay? The question came out before I could stop it. Just for a little while. I don't want to be alone tonight. He looked surprised, then something soft crossed his features. Of course. We sat on my narrow bed, not touching beyond our joined hands, and talked until dawn crept through the window. About his childhood before the curse manifested, about mine before the night I shifted and lost everything, about the kingdom we both wanted to protect and the future that might exist if we succeeded. And when the morning bells rang, signaling the day of the trial of fire, we rose together to face whatever came next. Chapter 8. The Trial of Fire. The ancient amphitheater had been built for spectacle. Stone tiers rose in concentric circles around a central ring, large enough to hold 5,000 spectators when packed. Today, it looked like closer to 7,000. Every noble house, every merchant guild, foreign dignitaries from allied kingdoms, common folk who'd bribed or fought their way in, all here to watch shifters prove their worth, or fail trying. I stood in the preparation chamber beneath the amphitheater, listening to the roar of the crowd above. Around me, other shifters waited, some confident, some terrified, all required by royal decree to participate. A girl near me was crying softly. She couldn't have been more than 16. First time shifting in public? I asked quietly. She nodded, wiping her eyes. What if I can't? What if I freeze? You will, I said, surprised by the certainty in my voice. Your wolf wants to emerge. You just have to trust her. The girl managed a weak smile. Thank you. I'm Dina, by the way. Alana. The lie came automatically, though it felt heavier now. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed across the amphitheater, magically amplified. Welcome to the trial of fire! The crowd erupted in cheers. I moved to the narrow viewing slot in the preparation chamber wall and looked out at the arena. The central ring was dominated by a massive bonfire, flames already reaching 20 feet high, fed by oil and enchantments. Around it, smaller fire pits marked the stations where shifters would prove themselves. On the raised platform at the north end, King Theron sat on his throne. He wore full ceremonial regalia, black and silver, a crown of twisted metal that looked like thorns. His expression was unreadable from this distance, but I felt the summoning stone's broken remnants pulse warm against my skin where I'd tucked the dust into a small pouch, a reminder that he was there, watching. Beside him sat his council. I recognized Lord Britt, stern and calculating. And there, Lamar, dressed as a royal advisor despite his bastard status. His presence on the platform sent a clear message. He was making his move today. "The rules are simple," the announcer continued. "Each shifter will approach the central fire. You will shift into your wolf form and hold the transformation for a count of 10. Those who succeed join the ranks of the kingdom's proven shifters. Those who fail—" He let the silence stretch ominously. "Face exile beyond our borders, never to return. Your families will bear the shame of your weakness. Your names will be stricken from the records." He paused. "Let the trial begin." The first shifter was called, a young man, maybe 20, who walked into the arena with his head high. He approached the fire ring, stripped off his shirt as tradition dictated, and closed his eyes. The shift took him smoothly. A large gray wolf emerged, holding the transformation easily. The crowd applauded politely. One by one, shifters entered the arena. Most succeeded. A few struggled but eventually managed. 2 failed completely. 1 froze, unable to shift at all, and was escorted out by guards to face exile. The other shifted but couldn't hold it, collapsing back to human form after only 3 seconds. The crowd's reaction to failure was mixed. Some booed, others looked away, uncomfortable with the public humiliation. I counted the shifters ahead of me. 30, 25, 20. My pulse hammered in my ears. The golden fire stirred beneath my ribs, sensing what was coming. "Easy," I whispered to it, to myself. "Not yet." 15 shifters. 10. 5. Then Dina's name was called. The girl who'd been crying earlier walked into the arena on shaking legs. She approached the fire ring, closed her eyes. I watched her shoulders rise and fall with deep breaths. The shift started. I could see the ripple beginning, her bones starting to reform. Then she screamed. The shift reversed violently. Dina collapsed to her knees, gasping, her body rejecting the transformation. "Failure," the announcer declared. "Next." Guards moved to escort her out. The girl was sobbing openly now, and the crowd's booing grew louder. Something hot and angry flared in my chest. This was wrong. The public humiliation, the exile, the treatment of frightened young shifters as entertainment. "Alana of House Casey," the announcer called. The name echoed across the amphitheater. My false name, my false house. This was it. I stepped out of the preparation chamber into the blazing afternoon sun. The crowd's noise washed over me like a physical force. Thousands of eyes tracked my movement as I walked across the sand toward the central fire ring. I kept my head down, shoulders hunched, playing the part of the wolfless servant girl one last time. As I passed the royal platform, I allowed myself one glance upward. Theron was leaning forward slightly, his knuckles white on the armrests of his throne. Even from here, I could see the tension in his jaw. Lamar sat relaxed, almost bored, but his eyes tracked me with predatory focus. I reached the fire ring. The heat was intense. The enchanted flames burned hotter than any natural fire. My skin prickled with sweat. "State your name," the trial master commanded. An older man with scars crossing his face, he'd probably overseen hundreds of these trials. "Alana Casey," I said, my voice barely audible. "Louder," he barked. "Alana Casey." The crowd murmured. I heard fragments of conversation. The wolfless one. Going to fail. Waste of time. The trial master gestured to the fire ring. "Approach. Shift. Hold for 10 seconds. Begin. I stepped into the ring of flames. The heat should have been unbearable this close, but my golden fire rose to meet it, recognizing a kindred force. The flames seemed to bend toward me, curious. I closed my eyes and thought about everything that had led to this moment. My family rejecting me at 6 years old, 12 years of hiding. The wolf skull figure saving my life. The suppression rune burning into my wrist. Joyce Casey taking me in despite not knowing what I was. Theron's desperate hope, his fight against the curse, the way his darkness anchored my light. Lamar's offer, the choice between mercy-killing and salvation, the kingdom that would suffer if I did nothing. Some things are worth the risk. I let the golden fire rise. The shift took me faster than it ever had before. My bones cracked and reformed, my skin rippled with fur. The world sharpened into new spectrums. When I opened my eyes, I stood on 4 paws. The crowd's reaction was immediate, gasps that turned into screams, because my fur wasn't silver, wasn't black, wasn't any natural wolf color. It was gold. Burning, molten gold that reflected the firelight like I was made of living flame. "Golden wolf!" someone shrieked. Panic rippled through the amphitheater. People scrambled backward, climbing over seats, trying to get away. The ancient fear of my kind had been passed down through generations, and now it manifested in mass hysteria. On the platform, guards drew weapons. Nobles shouted for my execution. Foreign dignitaries stood frozen in shock. But I ignored all of it, because there was only one face that mattered. Theron had risen from his throne. His expression was... I couldn't read it. Shock, yes, but underneath that, something else. Wonder? Recognition? Fear? Then Lord Britt moved. He pulled a small vial from his robes and threw it at me. The glass shattered at my feet, and purple smoke exploded upward. I tried to back away, but I'd already breathed it in. My legs went weak. The golden fire flickered and dimmed. Poison. They'd poisoned the arena. "Seize her!" Britt commanded. "The golden wolf is a threat to the kingdom!" Guards rushed into the arena, weapons drawn. I tried to shift back to human form, to speak, to explain, but the poison was working too fast. My vision blurred, my legs buckled. I collapsed onto the sand, my shift reversing against my will. Human again, but too weak to stand. Through the haze of poison, I saw Theron leap from the platform, saw him racing across the arena toward me, his guards struggling to keep up. "Don't touch her!" he roared. "That's a royal command!" But Britt was closer. He reached me first, grabbed my arm and hauled me upright. His grip was iron, and his scent was wrong. Underneath the perfume and powder, he smelled of old magic, ancient magic. "You've hidden well, little wolf," he hissed in my ear. "But your bloodline killed my ancestors, exposed their crimes, destroyed their legacy. Today, I return the favor." He pulled a dagger from his belt. The blade gleamed silver, etched with runes that made my skin crawl. Anti-magic, a blade that could kill even a golden wolf. He raised it high, positioning it over my heart. Theron hit him like a battering ram. The 2 men went down in a tangle of limbs. The dagger skittered across the sand. Theron's fist connected with Britt's jaw once, twice, 3 times. "You dare," Theron snarled. "You dare attack her in my kingdom during my trial." "Your kingdom?" Britt laughed, blood streaming from his split lip. "You're cursed, dying. You have no right to rule." "Then let me help him relinquish that burden." Lamar's voice cut through the chaos. He stood at the edge of the fire ring, and he wasn't alone. At least 30 guards flanked him, all wearing his colors, all loyal to him rather than the throne. "Brother," Lamar said, his tone almost gentle, "step away from the golden wolf. Let Britt finish what should have been done 18 years ago. Then abdicate peacefully. I'll make sure your death is quick, merciful." Theron rose slowly, positioning himself between me and Lamar. "You planned this. The poison, Britt's attack, all of it." "Of course." Did you think I'd leave something this important to chance? Lamar gestured, and his guards advanced. I told Aurelia the trial would be a trap. I'm simply springing it earlier than she expected. I tried to stand, but the poison still had me. My limbs felt like lead. The golden fire was there, burning in my chest, but I couldn't channel it, couldn't shift, couldn't fight. The choice is yours, brother, Lamar continued. Die fighting to protect a monster, or surrender peacefully. Either way, the cursed bloodline ends today. Theron's hands clenched into fists. I felt his rage through the broken summoning stone's remnants, hot and barely controlled. She's not a monster, he said quietly, and I'm not surrendering. Then he shifted. I'd never seen Theron's wolf form before. It was massive, larger than any I'd ever encountered, black as midnight with eyes that burned like ice. The curse had marked him even in this form, shadows writhing beneath his fur like living things. He roared, and the sound shook the amphitheater. Lamar's guards hesitated. Even with 30 against 1, facing a fully shifted Alpha King was suicide. "Kill him!" Lamar commanded. "Now!" The guards attacked. What happened next was brutal. Theron moved like violence incarnate, all tooth and claw and barely leashed power. Guards fell screaming. Blood sprayed across the sand, but there were too many. For every one Theron took down, 2 more replaced them. I watched, helpless, as they slowly overwhelmed him, as wounds accumulated, as his movements grew slower. No. The golden fire surged in response to my desperation. I felt it burn through the poison, consuming the toxins, clearing my system. Not like this. I won't lose him like this. I pushed myself to my hands and knees, then to my feet. The world tilted, but I stayed standing. "Impressive," Britt said from behind me. He'd recovered the anti-magic dagger. "But futile." He lunged. I spun, and the golden fire exploded from my hands. The flames caught Britt mid-stride, engulfing him in seconds. He screamed, a horrible, inhuman sound, as the fire consumed him. When it cleared, there was nothing left but ash. The amphitheater went silent. I stood in the center of the arena, my hands still wreathed in golden flame, and met Lamar's eyes across the distance. "You wanted to know what I'd choose," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "Mercy or survival? Saving your brother or letting him fall?" I walked toward the mass of guards, still trying to bring down Theron's wolf form. "I choose both." The golden fire erupted from my body like a tidal wave. It swept across the arena in a perfect circle, and everywhere it touched, violence stopped. Guards froze mid-strike. Weapons dropped from nerveless fingers. Because this wasn't the destructive fire that had killed Britt. This was something else. Something I hadn't known I could do. Truth fire. Every person the flames touched suddenly couldn't lie. Their secrets spilled out involuntarily. "Killed the Western Gate guards myself," one of Lamar's guards gasped. "Poisoned the trial on Lord Britt's orders," another sobbed. "Been planning the coup for months. Wanted to seize power. Eliminate the Golden Wolf bloodline forever." The confessions poured out, damning Lamar and his conspirators with every word. Theron shifted back to human form, bloodied but alive. He stared at me with something like awe. I turned to Lamar. "Your turn," I said, and sent a tendril of golden fire toward him. He tried to resist. I saw him clench his jaw, fight the compulsion, but truth fire couldn't be denied. "I wanted the throne," he gasped out. I convinced myself it was justice, revenge for my mother, mercy for my brother. But the truth is, I wanted power, I wanted to rule, and I was willing to kill anyone who stood in my way. The crowd had finally stopped panicking. Now they watched in horrified fascination as Lamar's carefully constructed righteousness crumbled. "I am no better than the cursed kings I claimed to oppose," he continued, the words tearing out of him. "I am exactly what this kingdom doesn't need." I released the truth fire. Lamar collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Arrest him," Theron commanded, his voice rough. Arrest all of them. Let them face judgment for their crimes. Guards, the loyal ones, moved to obey. I turned to face the crowd. Thousands of people staring at me. The golden wolf they'd been taught to fear. I am Aurelia Solana, I said, letting my voice carry. Daughter of the golden wolf bloodline. I did not come here to destroy. I came here to break a curse that has plagued your kingdom for generations. I held out my hand to Theron. He crossed the arena and took it, his warm grip steadying me. Your king is cursed, I continued, infected by dark magic placed on his bloodline as punishment for crimes committed long ago. That curse will consume him in a matter of months unless it's broken, and I am the only one who can break it. The amphitheater was silent, listening. But the ritual that breaks the curse might kill me, I said. I might burn away just like my predecessor, so I want you all to understand. I'm not doing this because I'm forced to. I'm doing it because some things are worth the risk. Your king is worth the risk. Your kingdom is worth the risk. I looked at Theron, at his dark eyes and bloodied face, and the hope that burned there despite everything. And if I die trying, I said, at least I'll die free, die fighting, die choosing my own fate instead of letting fear choose it for me. The crowd erupted, not in fear this time, in something else. Cheers mixed with tears, people chanting my name, my real name, the one I'd hidden for 12 years. Aurelia! Aurelia! Theron pulled me close, his forehead resting against mine. You're insane, he whispered, brave and powerful and completely insane. Probably, I agreed. When do we do it? The bonding ritual? I looked around the amphitheater, at the thousands of witnesses, at the fire still burning in the central ring. Now, I said, right now, while the truth fire still burns, while everyone can see what we're fighting for. He pulled back slightly. Are you sure? There's no going back once we start. I know. I cupped his face in my hands. I'm sure. He kissed me then, in front of the entire kingdom, a desperate, fierce kiss that tasted like blood and hope and the promise of salvation or destruction. When we broke apart, he smiled. Together? Together. We walked hand in hand to the central fire ring, ready to either break the curse or burn away trying. Chapter 9. The Bonding Ritual. The amphitheater had gone quiet again, 7,000 people holding their collective breath. Theron and I stood at the edge of the central fire ring, still holding hands. The flames burned higher now, responding to my presence. Golden sparks mixed with the orange and red, creating patterns that looked almost alive. I don't know how to do this, I admitted quietly. The texts never explained the actual ritual, just that it required a willing bond between Golden Wolf and cursed heir. My grandfather's journals mentioned some details. Theron's grip on my hand tightened, but they were vague. He wrote about intent mattering more than specific words, about the bond forming naturally once both parties opened themselves completely to it. Open ourselves completely? I looked at him. What does that mean? No walls, no secrets, no self-preservation. His dark eyes held mine. We have to be willing to give everything, including our lives, to save each other. The bond can't form if either of us is holding back. I thought about that, about what it meant to truly give everything. Then we need to speak the truth, I said, out loud, in front of everyone. No more hiding. Theron nodded slowly. You first? Me first. I turned to face the crowd, though I kept holding his hand like an anchor. I've spent 12 years lying about who I am, hiding in fear, convinced that if anyone saw the real me, they'd reject me the way my first family did. My voice cracked slightly, but I pushed through. I was 6 years old when I first shifted. My mother screamed. My father tried to kill me. They loved me until they saw what I really was, and then that love just stopped. I swallowed hard. I've been terrified of that moment ever since, terrified of being seen and found wanting. The amphitheater was silent except for my voice. But the truth is, I'm tired of hiding, tired of being small and scared and invisible. I looked at Theron. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being willing to let fear control me. I stopped choosing survival over living. I faced the crowd again. So yes, I'm a golden wolf. Yes, I'm dangerous. My fire can kill as easily as it can heal. But I'm also the girl who scrubbed your floors and changed your linens and watched you all from the shadows for years. I'm both monster and maid, and I'm choosing to use what I am to save your king, to break the curse, to try. I released Theron's hand and stepped into the fire ring. The flames rushed toward me immediately, wrapping around my body like eager hands. But they didn't burn. They welcomed, recognized their own. Your turn, I said to Theron. He stepped into the ring with me, and the flames parted to let him through before closing around us both. We stood in the center of a cylinder of fire cut off from the world. I am King Theron Reed, he said, his voice steady despite the flames. And I am dying. The admission echoed in the sudden stillness. I have been fighting a curse for 3 years. Every day the void grows larger. Every day it becomes harder to choose kindness over cruelty, to choose light over the darkness that whispers in my blood. He looked at me. I have made mistakes, hard choices that hurt people, policies that seemed necessary at the time but caused suffering. His voice dropped. I conscripted young people into military service, tearing them from their families. I raised taxes on those who could least afford it. I executed dozens for crimes that might have warranted mercy, and every single time I told myself it was necessary, that I was being a strong king, a decisive ruler. Tears tracked down his face, lit golden by the flames around us. But the truth is, some of those decisions were influenced by the curse, by the void that makes cruelty seem reasonable, and I'm terrified that if I'd had more time, I would have become exactly the monster the curse wanted me to be. He held out both hands to me. Aurelia is my last hope, not just for breaking the curse, but for being the person I wish I could have been all along. She makes me want to be better, makes me fight harder against the darkness, and if she dies trying to save me... His voice broke. Then I don't want to survive it. I would rather burn with her than live with that guilt. I took his hands. Our fingers interlaced, and I felt the familiar push-pull of our opposing powers. His ice-dart curse, my golden fire. The bond requires truth, I said, but it also requires choice. So I need to know, Theron, do you choose this, knowing it might kill us both? Yes. No hesitation. Every time. In every version of this story, I choose you. Even if I fail? Even if the curse consumes us? Even then, because trying together is better than failing alone. His hands tightened on mine. Do you choose this, Aurelia? Knowing what it costs? I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The 6-year-old girl running through the forest, the wolf skull figure saving my life, 12 years of hiding, 2 weeks of training, the truth fire revealing Lamar's conspiracy. Every choice, every moment, every heartbeat leading here. Yes, I said, I choose this. I choose you. I choose the possibility of breaking the curse over the certainty of letting it win. The flames around us flared brighter, responding to our words. Then we need to merge our powers, Theron said. My darkness with your light, the curse with the cure. It's going to hurt. I know. And we might die. I know that too. I smiled despite everything. Stop stalling. He laughed, short and sharp. Right, on 3? On 3. 1. His darkness began to rise, shadows writhing beneath his skin. 2. My golden fire surged, flames dancing along my arms. 3. We pressed our foreheads together and released our powers simultaneously. The collision was cataclysmic. Fire and ice, light and shadow, creation and void. 2 opposing forces that should have destroyed each other instead spiraled together, seeking equilibrium. Pain exploded through my body. It felt like being torn apart from the inside, every cell fighting with every other cell. I screamed, and somewhere in the distance I heard Theron screaming too. The bond formed like a bridge between us, a connection that carried everything. His emotions flooded into me, Pain, yes, but also love and hope and desperate fear. And I knew he was feeling mine. Determination and terror and the fierce protective rage that made me want to burn anyone who threatened him. Through the bond, I felt the curse. Experienced it the way he did. A howling void that wanted to consume everything warm and good. It clawed at the edges of his soul, trying to drag him down into darkness. But I also felt my golden fire rushing to meet it, burning away the corruption, purifying what it touched. The two forces locked in battle inside the space between us, fire versus void, light versus shadow, and neither was winning. "It's not enough," I gasped. "The fire alone can't destroy the curse. It's too strong." "Then we need more power," Theron gritted out. "We need—" Understanding hit me like lightning. "We need to shift, both of us, at the same time, merge the bond completely." "That could kill us." "So could this." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "Trust me?" "With everything I am." "Then shift with me, now." We let go of our human forms together. The transformation was unlike anything I'd experienced before. Instead of shifting alone, we shifted as one, our powers braiding together, wolf forms emerging in tandem. My golden wolf rose, massive and burning with inner light. His black wolf emerged, equally large, wreathed in shadows that writhed like living smoke. And the bond between us solidified into something unbreakable. I felt his thoughts as clearly as my own, felt his pain as my pain, his hope as my hope. We were separate beings, but connected so deeply that the line between us blurred. Now I thought spoke through the bond. "Push your darkness toward me. Let me burn it away." "It will hurt you," he protested. "The void will try to consume your fire." "Let it try." He hesitated, then released the curse. "Let it flow through the bond toward me." The void rushed in like a tsunami, cold and hungry and utterly without mercy. It wrapped around my golden fire, trying to smother it, snuff it out. But I didn't fight it. Instead, I fed it. More fire, more light, more heat than the void could possibly consume. I poured everything into the flames, every fear I'd ever held, every moment of hiding, every ounce of power I'd kept caged for 12 years. I let it all burn, and the resulting inferno was magnificent. The void tried to consume it, tried to drink in the light and use it to grow stronger. Instead, it choked, because my fire wasn't just destruction, it was transformation. It didn't destroy the darkness, it changed it, transmuted it, burned away the curse while leaving Theron's essential self intact. I felt the moment the curse broke, felt the void shatter like glass, fragmenting into pieces that my fire could consume one by one. Theron gasped through the bond, his shock and relief flooding into me. "It's working," he thought. "Gods, Aurelia, it's actually working." But the cost was mounting. Every second I maintained the fire, I felt pieces of myself burning away, my life force fueling the flames, the same thing that had killed the original Aurelia. "Stop," Theron commanded through the bond. "You're dying, I can feel it. Stop before there's nothing left." "Not yet. The curse isn't completely gone." "I don't care. I'd rather live cursed than watch you die." "But I care." I pushed harder, burning brighter. Some things are worth dying for. The last fragments of the curse disintegrated. The void collapsed entirely, leaving nothing but pure, clean emptiness where it had been. Triumph surged through me. We'd done it. We'd actually broken the curse. Then my fire guttered. I'd pushed too far, burned too much. There wasn't enough left to sustain the flames. My wolf form dissolved. I became human again, collapsing onto the sand inside the fire ring. My vision blurred, my heartbeat stuttered. Through the bond, I felt Theron's panic, felt him shift back to human, felt him catch me before I hit the ground completely. "No," he was saying, his voice breaking. "No, no, no. Aurelia, stay with me. Don't you dare leave me. Don't you dare." I tried to speak, but my voice wouldn't work. The world was fading, colors bleeding to gray. "I'm sorry," I thought through the bond. I'm so sorry, but at least you're free. I don't want to be free without you. His grief poured through the connection, drowning me. Come back. Please. There has to be something. His hands pressed against my chest. I felt warmth flowing from him into me. Not the cold darkness of the curse, but something else. Something new. Life force. He was giving me his life force, the same way I'd burned mine to save him. No, I tried to protest. Don't! You'll die! Then we die together. I'm not losing you. The warmth spread through my body, reigniting embers I thought had burned out completely. My heart steadied, my breathing eased. But through the bond, I felt Theron weakening, felt him giving too much, sacrificing himself. A third presence suddenly flooded into our bond, ancient, powerful, familiar. The wolf skull figure materialized inside the fire ring with us, seeming to step through the flames themselves. They knelt beside us, one hand on my shoulder, one on Theron's. "Foolish children," they said in that distorted voice, "willing to die for each other. How beautifully predictable." Power poured from their hands, golden fire mixed with something else, something that felt like pure life itself. It flowed into both of us, stabilizing Theron, rekindling my fading flames. "Who?" Theron started. "The one who's been watching, waiting, ensuring this moment could happen." The figure looked at me. "I am the original Aurelia, or what remains of her. A ghost anchored to this world by unfinished business." My breath caught. "You didn't die, not completely." "I died enough. My body burned, my life ended, but my spirit remained, bound by the incomplete curse breaking." The ghost's hand tightened on my shoulder. "I've spent 50 years searching for my reincarnation, protecting her, preparing her, all so she could finish what I started." "But why?" I asked. "Why not just tell me? Why the secrets and manipulation?" "Because you had to choose it freely. The ritual only works if both parties choose it without coercion, without full knowledge of the cost." The ghost released us both and stood. "If I'd told you everything from the beginning, your choice would have been tainted by obligation, by duty. This way, you chose love, and love is the only force strong enough to break a curse this old." She began to fade, her form growing translucent. "Wait!" I struggled to sit up. "What happens now?" "Now?" The ghost smiled beneath her wolf skull mask. "Now you live. Both of you. The curse is broken. The bond is complete, and I can finally rest." "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything, for saving me, for protecting me." "Thank yourself. You did the impossible." She looked at Theron. "Care for her. She's given you a gift most kings never receive, a second chance at life." "I will," Theron vowed. "I swear it." The ghost nodded once, then dissolved entirely, leaving nothing but golden motes of light that drifted upward and disappeared. The fire ring around us finally died down, revealing the amphitheater beyond. 7,000 people stood in absolute silence, staring at us. Then someone started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. Others joined in until the entire amphitheater erupted in thunderous applause. Theron helped me to my feet, keeping one arm around my waist to steady me. We stood together in the center of the arena, bloodied, exhausted, barely able to stand, but alive. The bond hummed between us, solid and unbreakable. I could feel his relief and joy, could feel the absence of the curse that had plagued him for so long. The void was gone, replaced by simple, clean emptiness that would fill with time and healing. "We did it," I said, leaning against him. "You did it," he corrected. "I just tried not to die." "You gave me your life force. That's a bit more than trying not to die." "Fair point." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "What happens now?" I looked around the amphitheater, at the crowd still cheering, at Lamar and his conspirators being led away in chains, at the foreign dignitaries watching with calculation in their eyes, already planning how this new development would affect their kingdom's relationships with ours. Now? I smiled despite my exhaustion. Now comes the hard part. Actually ruling. Together. Together, he echoed, and through the bond I felt his determination matching mine. Whatever came next, political intrigue, noble houses pushing back, foreign threats, the simple day-to-day challenge of leading a kingdom, we'd face it as partners, as equals, as king and queen. The Golden Wolf and the Shadow King, balanced at last. Chapter 10. The New Order. 3 months later. The throne room had been renovated. Where dark tapestries once hung, golden light now streamed through newly installed windows. The oppressive black stone had been polished until it gleamed. Fresh flowers, a luxury never permitted under the old regime, adorned every available surface. It looked like hope, I thought, like the physical manifestation of a curse finally broken. I stood beside Theron's throne, wearing the golden crown that had been forged specifically for me. Not a delicate, decorative thing, but a piece of armor, intertwined flames cast in precious metal, marking me as what I was, the Golden Queen, the Curse Breaker, partner to the Shadow King. "Are you ready for this?" Theron asked quietly. He wore his own crown, no longer the thorny, aggressive thing from before, but something simpler, more honest. "No," I admitted, "but I don't think I'll ever be ready for court politics." He smiled. Through our bond, I felt his amusement mixed with nervous energy. Today was important. Today, we would address the remaining noble houses and set the terms for how the kingdom would function going forward. Not everyone was happy about the changes we'd implemented. Not everyone accepted a golden wolf as their queen. The doors opened, and the nobles filed in. I recognized most of them by now. 3 months of intensive study with Theron had taught me the major players, their allegiances, their ambitions. Lord Wilson Reed, distant cousin to Theron, who'd been angling for the succession before my appearance. Lady Nadine Salinas, whose family had lost land under Theron's conscription policies. Solomon Hess's grandson, representing the merchant guilds. A dozen others, each with their own grievances and goals. They arranged themselves in a semicircle before the twin thrones. Yes, twin, that had been one of my first changes, and waited. Theron stood. I remained seated as we'd planned. A subtle reminder that while he might speak, we ruled together. "My lords and ladies," Theron began, "thank you for attending this assembly. As you know, the past 3 months have brought significant changes to our kingdom, changes that require we establish new guidelines, new laws, and new expectations. Starting with the repeal of the mandatory trial of fire," I added. My voice carried across the throne room, strengthened by the confidence I'd learned to project. No shifter will be forced to prove themselves publicly. No family will face exile for a child who cannot or will not shift. Murmurs rippled through the assembled nobles, not all of them approving. Lady Nadine stepped forward. "Your Majesty, if I may, the trial served a purpose. It ensured our population remained strong. That weakness wasn't tolerated." "It ensured public humiliation and trauma," I countered. "I was there, Lady Nadine. I watched terrified children forced to perform for entertainment. That's not strength. That's cruelty disguised as tradition." Her jaw tightened, but she bowed slightly. "As you say, Your Majesty." "Additionally," Theron continued, "we're implementing tax reforms. The burden will shift from the lower districts to the noble houses. Those who have benefited most from the kingdom's prosperity will contribute proportionally." That caused louder protests. "Your Majesty, that's unprecedented," Lord Wilson objected. "The noble houses have always been granted certain considerations. Considerations that created wealth disparity and suffering among those least able to bear it," I said. "We've reviewed 12 years of economic records. The system was broken. We're fixing it." "And what of the conscription?" another noble called out. "Will that continue?" Theron and I exchanged glances through the bond. This one we'd debated extensively. "Modified," Theron said. Military service will remain mandatory, but reduced to 6 months instead of 2 years, and it will apply to all citizens between 18 and 25, including noble children. No exemptions. The throne room erupted, nobles shouting over each other, objecting, demanding explanations. I stood, and the golden fire flickered to life around my hands, not threatening, just present, a reminder of what I was capable of. The room fell silent. "We understand this is difficult," I said, letting the fire dim. "Change always is." But the old system wasn't working. The curse wasn't just magical, it was systemic. It infected everything from tax policy to justice to how we treated our most vulnerable citizens. I looked at each noble in turn. "King Theron and I have been given a second chance, a chance to rebuild this kingdom into something better, something fair. And we're asking you to help us, not because we're forcing you, but because it's the right thing to do." Lady Nadine spoke again, her tone more measured this time. "And if we refuse? If we resist these changes?" "Then we'll implement them anyway," Theron said flatly. "But I'd prefer cooperation. I'd prefer to believe that the noble houses of this kingdom care more about its future than their own comfort." Silence stretched. Then, surprisingly, Solomon Hess's grandson stepped forward. "The merchant guilds support these reforms. We've suffered under the old tax structure for generations. It's time for change." One by one, other voices joined in. Not all of them, not even most, but enough to create momentum. Lord Wilson remained silent, his expression sour. Lady Nadine looked thoughtful but uncommitted. Several others seemed torn between tradition and necessity. "We don't expect immediate agreement," I said. "We're giving you 1 week to discuss among yourselves, consult your houses, consider the implications. Then we reconvene and finalize the new laws." Dismissed. The nobles filed out, their conversations already animated. Through the bond, I felt Theron's mixture of relief and anxiety. "That went better than expected," he said once we were alone. Or worse, hard to tell with nobles. I removed my crown and set it on my throne. "At least no one tried to assassinate us. The day's not over." I laughed, despite the truth in his words. We'd survived 3 assassination attempts in as many months. Holdouts from the old regime, people who believed golden wolves were still monsters, extremists who thought Theron should have died cursed rather than be saved. "Come on," I said, taking his hand. "We have another appointment." The memorial garden was my idea. It occupied the space where the old execution grounds once stood, a deliberate choice. Where death had been dealt, now life would grow. 50 golden stones formed a circle, each engraved with a name. The 50 golden wolves who'd been executed over the past century, victims of fear and genocide and carefully maintained lies. At the center stood a statue, the original Aurelia, rendered in white marble, her hand outstretched as if offering help. Below it, an inscription. "She cursed us not from evil but from pain. May we learn from her mistake. May we choose mercy over vengeance. May we remember." Joyce Casey stood beside the statue, one hand resting on the marble base. My adoptive mother, the woman who'd taken in a bloodied 6-year-old without asking too many questions. "It's beautiful," she said as we approached. Her eyes were wet. "She would have appreciated this." "I hope so." I hugged her tightly. Through the bond, I felt Theron's affection for Joyce, his gratitude for the woman who'd protected me when he couldn't. Joyce had been one of the first people we'd told the full truth after the trial. She'd cried, then laughed, then cried again. Then she'd slapped my shoulder and said, "You could have trusted me sooner, you know." She was right, but fear had made me cautious. Fear had stolen 12 years of honesty. I wouldn't let it steal any more. "How's Molly?" I asked. My adoptive sister had been shocked by my revelation, but ultimately accepting. She'd even started training as a royal guard, using her silver wolf form to protect the kingdom. "Thriving. She made lieutenant last week." Joyce beamed with pride. "And she wanted me to tell you she's found her mate, a nice boy from the northern districts, wedding next month." "I'll be there," I promised. We spent an hour in the memorial garden talking about simple things: family, weather, the upcoming harvest festival. Normal things that felt precious after months of political intrigue and magical drama. When Joyce finally left, Theron and I remained in the garden, sitting on a bench beneath a flowering tree. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Revealing yourself? Everything that came after?" I thought about the question, about the loss of anonymity, the weight of the crown, the constant scrutiny and danger. "No," I said honestly. "I regret hiding for so long, wasting 12 years being afraid when I could have been living." Through the bond, I felt his relief. "What about you?" I asked. "Do you regret us? The bond? Being tied to me for the rest of your life?" He was quiet for a moment, and I felt him sorting through complex emotions on his end of the connection. "I regret that it took a curse to bring us together," he said finally. "I regret the circumstances, the pressure, the near-death experiences." He took my hand. "But I don't regret you. Never you." "Even when I'm arguing with nobles about tax reform?" "Especially then. You're magnificent when you're angry." He grinned, all golden fire and righteous fury. I leaned against his shoulder and we sat in comfortable silence. The bond hummed between us, not intrusive anymore, just present, a constant awareness of each other that had become as natural as breathing. "Theron?" I said after a while. What happens next, after we finish the reforms, after the kingdom stabilizes?" "I don't know." He sounded content with that uncertainty. "We rule, we live, we figure it out together." "Together," I echoed. Through the bond, I felt his love, steady and sure and utterly without doubt, and I felt my own love reflecting back, just as strong. We'd broken a curse, survived conspiracies and assassination attempts and political upheaval. We'd rebuilt a kingdom from the ground up, rewriting centuries of tradition. Whatever came next would probably be just as complicated, just as dangerous, just as exhausting, but we'd face it together. The Golden Wolf and the Shadow King, light and darkness, balanced at last. Epilogue. 1 year later. The northern border disturbance turned out to be exactly what the messenger had described, a hybrid shifter, silver and gold mixed in ways that shouldn't be possible, and she was asking for me by name. I stood in the throne room, reviewing the latest reports, when Theron entered with a strange expression on his face. "You need to see this," he said through the bond, his emotions a mixture of shock and wonder. He led me to the guest quarters, where a young woman sat waiting. She looked maybe 16, with silver-streaked dark hair and eyes that shifted between gold and gray. When she saw me, she stood abruptly. "Are you Aurelia Solana, the Golden Queen?" "I am." I studied her carefully. Her scent was strange, familiar in a way I couldn't place. "Who are you?" "My name is Elisa Payne." She swallowed hard. "And I think I'm your sister." The world tilted. "That's impossible. My family, your biological family, the Solanas." Elisa pulled a locket from beneath her shirt. Inside was a portrait of a woman who looked remarkably like the original Aurelia. "This is our mother. She's alive, Aurelia, and she's been searching for you for 18 years. Through the bond, I felt Theron's support, his strength anchoring me as my entire understanding of my past shifted. "Where is she?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "The Western Territories. She leads a community of golden wolves. There are 12 of us. We've been hiding, waiting for someone brave enough to reveal themselves first, to prove it was safe." Elisa's eyes glowed pure gold for a moment. "You did that. You showed the world that golden wolves aren't monsters, that we can be trusted." 12 golden wolves," I repeated, stunned. 12 curses, Theron said quietly. The prophecy mentioned 12 curses, 12 golden wolves to break them. Understanding crashed over me. This wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. "Will you come?" Elisa asked. "Will you meet her? Meet us?" I looked at Theron. Through the bond, I felt his encouragement, his curiosity, and underneath it all, his love. "We'll come," I said, "together." Because that's what we did now, faced the impossible together, broke curses together, built a future together. The Golden Age was just beginning, and somewhere in the Western Territories, 11 more golden wolves waited to change the world.